wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for attending this afternoon session. This is the second installment for the day. This morning we had webinar 1 focusing on Muslims education, the foundations of it, specifically Islamic epistemology and the core sciences of the Islamic Studies curriculum. We have had a large number of participants, and many of the questions were about, of course, epistemology, the sciences in classical Islamic education, and how they figure out in the contemporary world and contemporary issues and contemporary research and academic pursuit. This afternoon, we are happy to have representatives from both the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education. We have Ms. Mildred V. Zamar and Ms. Dr. Noor Hussein. They will both be speaking about government initiatives towards the development of Muslim education in the Philippines. Before that, I'd like to give a brief backgrounder on how it came to be that the government has issued certain policies and orders for Muslim education to be institutionalized or mainstreamed in the Philippine system. It all began, the first legislation, the first systemic legislation to give space to Islamic education in the Philippines was Letter of Instruction 1221 by then President Ferdinand Marcos in 1982. This was the order, the letter of instruction was going to give space to madrasa education, both at the basic and the higher education level, and give space for the teaching of Sharia law and Arabic education in various programs in the Philippines. But this letter of instruction really gave more, was not as systemically implemented, but then it was the impetus for many private institutions by Muslim organizations or individuals to put up programs where they could integrate Muslim subjects in Islamic education into the government curriculum. I think that Ms. Mildred Zamar will be elaborating on this in her presentation. She will be the first. Ms. Mildred Zamar is the focal person of the Muslim Education Program, Bureau of Curriculum Development, Department of Education. Let me give a brief background. Ms. Mildred Zamar has been very active in the promotion of the Alive program, actually, and she will be talking about the framework, the general framework of Muslim education crafted by the Department of Education. She is actually the supervising education program specialist since 2016 to present at the Bureau of Curriculum Development Special Curricular Programs Division, Pasig City. She has managed and supervised the Madrasa and Indigenous Program for Curriculum since 2016. Apart from managing and supervising the Special Foreign Language Program, specifically Spanish, German, French, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean from 2016 and 2017. And she also was the co-lead on the Comprehensive Sexuality Education and Gender and Development Issue-Based Program under DepEd. Before her stint at DepEd, she was a guidance service specialist, guidance services specialist at the UP Integrated School, UP Diliman, Quezon City, and also a guidance counselor at Philippine Women's University, Taft Avenue. She has worked she has done volunteer work, specifically in counseling in many institutions in the Philippines. Currently, she is finishing her PhD in Counseling Psychology from De La Salle University in Manila. She obtained her MA Education degree, major in guidance from the University of the Philippines College of Education in Diliman, where she obtained an Academic Excellence Award. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Social Sciences, majoring in Psychology and Sociology from UP Baguio. Our next speaker, Dr. Noor Hussein, is actually the chief of the School Operations and Governance Division in the Department of Education, Bacolod City. However, he is authoritative on the Islamic Studies program by the Commission on Higher Education, because he has served as a member of its technical committee for several years now. He has a doctor in management, educational management, particularly from Liceo de Cagayan University, a Master of Arts in Social Studies from Ateneo de Zamboanga University, and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Western Mindanao State University. Recently, he has enjoyed a public management and development program middle manager class from the Development Academy of the Philippines, where he obtained a Master in Development Management. His capstone project was laying the groundwork for the effective implementation of the Open High School program in Bacolod City, reaching out to the least, the lost, and the last learner, where he garnered the Best Capstone Project Award. I understand that Dr. Noor was also formerly Dean of the Universidad of Zamboanga in Zamboanga City's Islamic Studies program. Without further ado, I'd like to call on Ms. Mildred Samar to speak on the Muslim education program of the Department of Education and what has its framework and the current developments given the pandemic and many other salient issues attending education for Muslims. Ms. Mildred Zamar, may we have you on board? Thank
All right,
you.
thank you, Ma'am Nefertari Arsad. Let me share my screen with you. Thank you for that kind introduction, Ma'am Nefertari. I am tasked to share with you an overview of the Madras Education Program, or MEP, particularly the Alive program. When we say Alive program, Alive is particularly the program we use for public school. So automatic, if it's a live program, it's for public school. I will share you in a bit later, no, where does the private school comes in. So in the sharing, I will particularly siguro focus on the framework, the curriculum scope, and the development initiatives, as Ma'am Nefertari has mentioned earlier. Okay. So my middle initial is actually letter D. Okay, so where we're coming from, siguro, I would like to share first, this slide on inclusive education policy framework of basic education, which is found in the Department Order 21 series of 2019. What does this DO actually say? So DepEd is mandated to protect and promote the right of every Filipino citizen to quality education that will enable each learner to realize his or her full potential and meaningfully take part in nation building. So in the goal to be inclusive, DepEd developed the Inclusive Education Policy Framework on Basic Education, as mentioned to you, which is in DO 21 series of 2019, Annex 5, which promotes the implementation of the K-12 program that addresses to various physical, intellectual, psychosocial, and cultural needs of learners in diverse contexts. Inclusion is further described in the features of an inclusive curriculum as learner-centered, developmentally appropriate, culture-sensitive, relevant, gender-responsive, and contextualized. So what is Madras education program in the Department of Education? It is actually a comprehensive program for Muslim learners, both in public and private schools or madaris. So when we say madrasa education program, ito yung kabuuan ng programa na ibibigay ng DepEd. And a live program is just one of the services that we offer in the MEP program or madrasa education program. So it aims to provide the Muslim Filipino learners with appropriate and relevant educational opportunities within the context of their cultures, customs, traditions, and interests. So this is done primarily through the integration of the Arabic language and Islamic values education, which forms the acronym ALIVE. So AL is Arabic language, IVE is Islamic values education. Curriculum in the K-12 basic education program, and through the support to private madaris to provide Filipino Muslims with an education system that is responsive to the needs, cognitive and cultural capacity, circumstances, and diversity of their learners, schools, and communities. So this program has been implemented by the Department of Education as a form of affirmative action which contribute to the government national goal to attain peace, not only in Mindanao, but the whole country. So let me just share with you first, no, how does it work for the Department of Education? So currently, the Alive program is implemented for grades 1 to 6 in public school. So wala pa kami kindergarten, but that's already being developed now. And also for grades 7 to 10, that's also being developed now. And hopefully, we want to release the curriculum early next year. So yan yung mga ginagawa po namin ngayon. But currently, ito na po yung nai-implement na curriculum po in the field. It's grades 1 to 6 in public schools. Sorry, medyo may po yung background. But the Arabic language here, as you can see on your screen, is taught 3 times a week for 40 minutes, where the Islamic values education is taught twice a week for also 40 minutes. So these 2 subjects are an additional subjects or add-on subjects to the minimum K-12 requirement. Meaning to say, they still have to take the math subject, the English subject. So all the subjects that we provide for our regular learners, that's also what we provide to our Muslim learners. So in the afternoon, they have this additional subject which they have to take na tinatawag pa nating alive. So 3 times a week ang Arabic. So kunyari, ang Arabic language can be taught MWF, and Islamic Studies, or Islamic Values Education will be taught EPH. So that's just one of the schedule. May other options pa sila in terms of schedule. Basta 40 minutes ang contact time and delivery ng itong ng subject ko na ito. So this, again, sabi namin, not all students are actually have to enroll in the Alive program. Most of these students are Muslim learners, but it is not only limited to Muslim learners. No? Pero currently, yun yung requirement na there's a minimum number of learners na kailangan, I think 15 learners ang minimum para magkaroon ng Alive class sa isang school. Okay, so, there you go. Ang medium of instruction, as I've mentioned here, to teach the Alive subjects are Arabic language, of course, for the Arabic language subject, and Filipino, English, and or mother tongue in teaching the Islamic values. But the curriculum for Islamic values, since it was aligned to our edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, which is the value subjects that's being taken in K-12, it was written in Tagalog. So, Filipino din yung pag-translate namin ng curriculum. But later on, we also wanted to develop an English version of that. Ayan. So, this is just a sample of, I got this data you might be interested to know. Regarding the number of Muslim learners in the public school who enrolled in elementary from school year 2015 to 2019. So it's this sex disaggregated data, no, wherein we would also know how many males are enrolled and how many females are also enrolled, and a total number of learners from 2015 up to 2019. So if you can see, maybe you would realize bakit 918,000 tapos, o, di ba, dahil na ano na-promote ang Alive nabuhay siya. Actually, to tell you the truth, matagal na itong Alive program. It was, curriculum na to started way back 2004. So kung mapapansin niyo, parang medyo nag-die down siya. It was the time when the K-12 curriculum was developed. So, parang dahil masyadong natutok yung mga tao sa pag-develop ng K-12, even the rest of the programs, medyo nag-antay siya because the K-12 curriculum will be the mother na curriculum for all the rest of the curriculums na madidevelop. So, inantay siya. So, pagtapos ng K-12, tsaka na balikan yung Alive curriculum. So, during 2015, nag-start ulit na ma-advocate ang Alive program. Kaya meron tayong 918,000 students. And it was actually increased in 2016. It went up to 938,000 plus, almost 939. Tapos kung mapansin nyo, ang laki pa ng tinaas niya, naging 1,800. And then bakit siya ulit bumaba? So let's not forget na nagkaroon tayo ng senior high school program din. So during this time, parang bumaba, nag-extend kasi merong mga taong na nag-senior high school. So parang bumaba yung mga estudyante natin. So yun lang yung explanation for this data. So ito naman for secondary. Ibig sabihin, ito yung secondary natin, wala silang Alive classes. But these are our Muslim learners who are enrolled in the K-12 program. Except that, dahil wala pa tayong curriculum for secondary, walang add-on subject na Alive. So marami tayong Muslim learners in, again, 2015 hanggang 2019. Ayan, medyo increasing yung enrollees po natin dyan. Ayan. I also got the data. Ito lang yung nakuha ko for Muslim learners who are taking the senior high school na subject natin na by track level. So meron tayong academic, for PBL, for sports, and for arts. Ayan. So I don't have a total there. But as you can see, marami naman tayong senior high school. So in terms of plan, later on, we will also develop a senior high school program for the Muslim learners. Then, yan. I also got a data for 2020 to 2021. Tingnan nyo yung drop ng ating enrollees from 3,892 and 1,229. So we consulted the region. Bakit bumaba from ang laki ng binaba? So I think that the problem with this data was hindi na-update ng mga regions natin yung kanilang number of enrollees kasi biglang pandemic, nawala yung mga estudyante. Hindi alam saan at paano ulit magko-collect ng mga data. So I think that's the only reason kung bakit. I don't think this is accurate when we got this, but we asked for the help of the region to give us an updated one. But just to show you, ito yung lumabas na data sa aming LIS or list ng aming students sa database namin during this time. Yan. We also have here the number of Alive learners in private school. Ayan. Katulad ng sabi ko po kanina, we have this Republic Act number 10533, which is an act enhancing the Philippine basic education system by strengthening its curriculum and increasing the number of years for basic education, appropriating funds thereof and for other purposes, acknowledge the Madrasa program as a comprehensive program designed using the Madrasa curriculum prescribed by DepEd in coordination with the Commission on Muslim Filipinos for Muslim learners in private and public schools. So we are also allotting funds for private Madari. So I think it was mentioned in the talk of Ma'am Nefertari this morning when somebody asked about the curriculum, what's the difference and how you integrate these teachings. That's very important to you in the curriculum na mention nga na we only have two subjects for our public schools, which is the Arabic language, Islamic values, but there are more subjects no in private madaris. But how do they apply no for in depth ed no to be depth ed recognized schools na madaris or private madaris schools? So of course, they have to cater to the minimum requirement of K to 12. Kailangan nila mag-offer ng K to 12. So ang tanong, bakit iilan lang yung nakakapasa sa requirement na to? Because maybe part of the requirement is also to provide teachers who will teach this curriculum no, ng science and math, etc. And medyo marami din ang hindi nakakamit ng mga requirements ito. And that's why hindi rin sila makapag-offer din ng allied program in their schools. But tinutulungan din po natin yung mga schools po na ito so that later on they can, you know, still apply and comply with the minimum requirements set by DepEd. So yun po. So meron tayong provision po na ganito for our private schools. So if you can see, ito yung just a sample of the 84 private madaris recipient of DepEd who are also getting financial assistance for from us. No? So we have a data that I got from 2019. So this data actually that I'm talking to you or sharing with you is actually in another bureau, which is the Bureau of Learning Delivery. My bureau, kung saan po ako kabilang, is the Bureau of Curriculum Development. But we work closely together. So if there's any question na medyo related to learning delivery, it's actually them who can answer best to these questions. But if you still have any, if I know these answers naman, pwede ko naman din sagutin if you have questions pa later. Ayan, so madami yan, 84 schools. Yan. So yan po yung aming tinutulungan. Yan. So these are just some of the DO, no? But I will not discuss with you this anymore. But yan lang, which has to do with the financial assistance na we are giving to private madrasa. So may legal basis din po kami dyan. Alright. So let me now share with you the allied curriculum. So ang hirap gumawa ng isang curriculum unless you have a framework where you can always bank on your theories, you can always bank on your guiding principles para malaman mo kung ano talaga yung sakop o scope na gusto mong ma-capture no, in teaching the allied program. So let me share with you yung kabuuan. I will be sharing with you 3 frameworks. One is the allied framework, yung kabuuan ng Arabic language and the Islamic values. And then I will be sharing also separately a conceptual framework of the Arabic language, how we are actually teaching Arabic language in DepEd, and the Islamic values. So first is the allied framework for our Muslim learners. So if you can see, no, below, it's like a plant na box, no, na may kamay, tapos para may flower bud, no, sa gitna. Parang ganun yung kanyang image, no, if you will look into it. And then sa right, to my right, sa right ko, facing the screen, no, yan po yung ating Islamic values education. And then to my left, yan yung how we explain the Arabic language. So sa ilalim, of course, we wanted to recognize the students as constructivists. They themselves make meanings on their own. They're coming from multicultural backgrounds and perspectives. And of course, we acknowledge the state of Fitra. And then we provide them the Arabic language and Islamic values education. So, in-expect namin, our expectation, kasi a framework should be ideal in its sense, yung bang, medyo mahirap siya abutin, pero alam mo, ito yung vision mo, ito yung gusto mo makita sa mga estudyante mo. So, or rather sa mga learners mo. So, how do we want to see them, no? Especially, pag binigyan namin sila ng Islamic values education. Of course, we wanted to see a level of transformation. So, makikita ninyo, how they may progress or develop, no, from from submitting, no, to the teachings and doctrines of Islam, and then becoming a believer of it, and then later on becoming excellent, no, nagiging talagang part of their life na it's becoming a way of life na yung mga teachers na yun eh. Na paikot-ikutin ka man, magbago-bago man yung sitwasyon, mag-pandemic man o ano, hindi ka nalilito kasi malinaw na malinaw sa yung mga itinuro sa iyo. So that's how we actually viewed our learners, no, once we provide them the Islamic values education. We also wanted to consider promotion of the rights, no, and their responsibilities collectively as steward of the earth and creation. I think lumabas to kanina, I've heard questions related to paano natin isasama yung nature, paano natin isasama yung being connected with the nature, with the creation, etc. This is very important in Islamic teachings, and therefore we also have integrated that, no, in our framework, and therefore it has to be reflected in the curriculum. To my left is the Arabic language. Ito po sige, anyway, before I explain that to you, ang gusto namin, ang pagturo namin ng Arabic language, of course, I'm not a Muslim, but I work closely with Muslim writers, no, and Muslim teachers of the Alive program, and of course, I also work with teachers, no, in the academe, kaya I work with Ma'am Nefertari, I've already worked with Sir Noor Umog, and Ma'am Noor Aini Lim, no, and other really good, no, consultants, no, and resource persons that I get them from different organizations. Then, so gusto namin makita dito, no, ang pag-develop ng Arabic language nila, where they can learn it muna, no, basic, then intermediate, and then advanced level. Of course, when they learn the language, how do we want to see it then from them? Of course, we want them to be competent in the language, kaya may communicative competence. We want them to be critical in literacy. Alam mo lang yung language, pero when you read, a literature, hindi ka makapag-interact with it. So, saan gamit yung language mo? Dapat it has to have its use. And the Islamic literacy and understanding. So, yung from local, no, what we have here, lalo na kung galing sila sa iba't ibang region, napaka-rich ng Islamic literacy, and we want to have that back, no, na gusto namin bumalik talaga yung mga learners, no, from their roots, para sila mismo gumawa later on ng kanilang sariling history, ano, for our Muslim Filipinos, then how they started, no, in our country. So yan yung mga, that's how we envision it. So kung makikita nyo in the middle, how does this work together? Hindi po ito, like, we can't just teach Alive where Arabic language is separate from Islamic values. No, it has to work together. It's different kasi na-mention ni Ma'am Nefertari that I'm also handling the foreign languages, and also meron French, Chinese, may ganun. How is it different from the foreign languages curriculum that we also provide to our learners? The difference is, it's not just being competent in the language. The vision is to teach them the Arabic language so they will have a better and clearer understanding of their Islamic teachings. Yun yung gamit. Hindi lang biyasa ka dito, and then so what? You're being good in this, you understand the culture of this, you can understand this when you watch this, etc. But, in the totality of it, nakikilala mo yung sarili mo. You are connected to your Creator, you are connected with Allah, you are being connected with the rest of the Muslims all over the world. So, kung makikita ninyo dito sa gitna, it's really a preservation of identity, culture, and heritage, and the promotion of peace, progress, and unity, and strengthening of Muslim Ummah. Yan. So, again, sa ilalim, mahalaga kasi sa amin to, yung monitoring and evaluation. So, we do monitoring and evaluation of how this curriculum is being implemented in the school. Again, if you have a good curriculum and you cannot implement it, it's a curriculum failure. It's that simple. Ang ganda ng curriculum mo, wow, okay to. Pero hindi mo ma-implement, hindi mo makita, nagbabago yung mga estudyante mo in the curriculum that you're offering, because curriculum is supposed to be a way of life. Pag tingin mo ng curriculum, alam mo maganda yung curriculum kasi kita mo na agad yung buhay ng mga tao, yung buhay ng learners mo, kita mo na siya. So pag hindi mo makita yung buhay ng mga learners mo as it was reflected in the curriculum, then it's a curriculum failure. So we need to do monitoring and evaluation of our curriculum. I won't be discussing too much of this already because I've mentioned this now while I was explaining the framework. Okay, so siguro just briefly lang, it aspires to provide a complete, adequate, relevant, equitable, and culture-based education for all Muslim learners. I've mentioned that already. This framework aims to preserve Muslim identity, culture, and heritage, to promote national and global progress, unity and peace, and to strengthen their connections with the other Muslims and to the world. Yan. Okay, so of course, tinitingnan namin yung holistic development of our learner, including their spiritual, intellectual, social, cultural, scientific, and physical aspect. Some of you might be wondering, Ma'am, I think this is very much different to the revised elementary madrasa curriculum that we know a live program is currently offering. And I would say yes, kasi kanina may tanong din. This is actually an enhanced version. This is actually already something that we align to K-12. Bakit? Kasi what we notice no, from the previous curriculum that we offer, kaya medyo yung framework, medyo nag-shift din siya. Most of our students, no, once after they graduated from grade 6, let's say, many of them nanatili sila sa kanilang community, they became imam, they became, a religious, many of those became religious leaders, but maraming din na parang hindi rin na nakatawid. We have to change the framework and affecting the curriculum because gusto namin makasabay sa K-12 curriculum exits. And what are those curriculum exits? Entrepreneurship, middle level skills, ang tawag dito, academic na learnings or taking higher education, yan. And technical vocational skills. Gusto namin silang makasabay doon. I was listening to Ma'am Noor Hussein, and she was so passionate and saying, hindi, dapat ganito. I've had doctor friends, I have this, and that's what we're actually doing. I also wanted to see my Muslim learners not taking those advanced steps in their lives, that they are really good in magsimula muna sa pagkilala muna ng kanilang sarili, pag-imbibe ng mga Islamic values in their lives, and really getting into the field where they're good at. I think this what the framework is actually allowing our Muslim learners to be and to have more opportunities. So I will not be reading everything that's been written here na nabanggit ko na po yan kanina. So we want to develop teaching materials and curriculum contents that promote solidarity, unity and diversity of Filipino and Islamic values. Yan. So what's our vision? Baka magbago pa nga to ng content, but we're still working on the vision statement in the previous curriculum that we have. The learner emulates the character, traits, and virtues of Prophet Muhammad, who is God-fearing, nationalistic, law-abiding, with concern for his fellow men and the environment, knowledgeable in Arabic, intelligent and industrious, and lives up to them. Yeah. So what's the mission statement? To promote a curriculum that is culturally sensitive, developmentally age-appropriate, and responsive to the needs of the learners, who shall be imbued with universal values that are found in the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, and competent in Arabic language, and use it to communicate, engage in more work opportunities, and become excellent in all the areas of life and undertakings. Yan ang gusto namin gawin. So for the goals, we want to offer functional literacy and culturally relevant education among all Muslim learners through that live program, and to provide a curriculum that is aligned with the K-12 basic education framework of DepEd. So if you notice, masyado lang siya naka-align in the universal values because in DepEd, we cater to all types of learners. Meaning to say, whatever the religion is, we all serve them. So we cannot teach religion, but we can only teach the universal values. But of course, Islamic values education is anchored on the teachings of Quran. Kaya meron talaga, hindi talaga mailalayo yun. That's why the morning session is very important, because these are the content, no, of what Islamic values will be, no, should have, no, in yun nga, pag nag-develop ng curriculum. So I will not be also dwelling this on this too much, but of course we consider the Filipino Muslim here someone who has inclination to learn and has potential to develop himself. He or she has the capacity to learn based on his preparedness and progression. Again, I've mentioned that they're coming from diverse and multicultural perspectives. Yeah. So a learner needs experiences through which knowledge of Islamic faith and practice may be required. Therefore, he or she needs skills required for reading, memorizing, comprehending, and applying the Quran and Hadith. A Muslim learner also needs awareness of the legacy of Islam as expressed through its history and culture as values, and the belief systems are promoted through this. Yeah. So lastly, the development of an Islamic identity in accordance with Islamic principles and values is important, as it will result to having a creative, meaningful, innovative, value-based instruction that provides a safe and orderly environment for a Muslim learner. I hope you also get to hear some 21st century learning skills there. So the way we identify the Muslim learners here should also invite those 21st century skills. Dapat hindi sila huli. Dapat nakakasabay sila sa mga pagbabago, no? Dapat kaya nilang mag-adjust sa lahat ng ito. So, ano ba yung needs ng ating national and global community? Again, mabigat ang pinanggagalingan ng madrasa education as it responds to the historical grievances of marginalization and social-cultural and educational injustices. So the recognition of madrasa system is integral to the advocacy of the moral liberation movement. So in the final peace agreement during the Ramos administration, there was a concession for the appointment of qualified Muslims across the departments to strategic positions like yung Undersecretary for Muslim Affairs. So during the Arroyo administration, yung Danao nating agenda was developed and madrasa recognition was part of the peace-building component. So as I mentioned earlier, in 2004, si Dr. Manaros Boransing, that's the name that you should never forget when you remember DepEd. He was appointed and started the development of the Madrasa education program in DepEd. Ayan. So that was actually the start of it. So our national global community lead Muslims will promote national and global progress, unity, and peace. Okay, so maybe, this would also help you understand what is Arabic language and how it's being taught in DepEd. So tingnan nyo, parang if you look at the middle circle, the inner circles there, ito po yung mga components ng language. These are the domains of a language. So kaya inalign ito sa English kasi pare-pareho naman ng mga languages and Filipino and also mother tongue. So meron na kaming mga current na mga language curriculum from K to 3 tinuturo ang mother tongue. And then ang English starts from 4 and then onwards na yon. Ang Filipino starts, I think, in grade 3, no? So imagine that pag ang bata, of course, if we already are going to provide a K-madrasa, so kindergarten matutunan niya yung mother tongue niya, no? So that's the first language. Matututunan niya muna ang Filipino, tapos matuturuan siya ng Arabic habang tinuturo din sa kanya English. So paano na? Ang dami-daming languages. So parang pang ilang language na yun na natutunan. So we have to study how does learning a language from L1 to L2 to L3 goes for us. May mga pinaplano po kami mga researches to really understand how it's being done, how it works in the different regions, paano nila best na ituturo ang Arabic language from what L1, ano yung L1 na yun, to L2, at ano yung L2 na yun, to L3, something like that. But what we have taken here, ang theory na kinuha po namin dito is that a student can learn a language kahit sabay-sabay pa siyang bago sa kanya. no? And kaya tayo din kilala, no, mga Filipinos who can actually, we are multilingual. We can learn different languages all at the same time. Kaya nga biglang pasok ang Korean, biglang yung Korean, ano din, ano, na fever, parang na-capture din ng ating mga millennials or mga kabataan. So if you can see, we have here, as I mentioned kanina, dun sa life framework natin, the communicative competence, critical literacy, Islamic understanding, and understanding of literary heritages. The learning outcomes that we wanted, our students to have. At yung mga affecting, na mga factors, are outside the circle na nasa loob ng box. For a deeper understanding of Muslim culture and establishment and preservation of identity, for effective communication and connection among Muslims and to the world, and then the promotion of national and global unity and peace. Yan. So these are the learning outcomes, as I've mentioned to you. How do we teach the Arabic language? Simple lang, ganito siya karaming domains. So imagine the way we created the curriculum is really this, I think, sobrang nitty-gritty siya, no? Kasi when we talk about domains, we have to consider phonological awareness. We have to consider alphabet knowledge, phonics and word recognition, listening comprehension, oral language, vocabulary and concept development, reading comprehension, grammar awareness, fluency, literature, and composing. So, paano nag-uusap-usap yan? Ano ba yan? Iwahiwalay ba yan? Or how do you look at what we call the horizontal articulation of these different domains? What about the vertical articulation? When I say horizontal articulation, for example, for grade 1, quarter 1, paano ito pumapasok? Itong alphabet knowledge, listening comprehension, when we teach them a letter, for example, paano ito nag-uusap-usap? What if we talk about the vertical articulation from quarter 1 to quarter 2? Paano lumalalim yung spiral progression din ng paglalalim ng pagkatuto ng bata, no? When iba pa yung sa alphabet knowledge, iba pa yung sa oral language. So imagine the intricacy, of developing a curriculum framework for Arabic language. Tapos may writing pa kayo. So talagang very exciting. I think the development itself, masakit siya sa ulo, pero it was very an exciting na challenge that we had, in the past. So these are the 5 macro skills. I just want to show you. I will not be explaining most of it. Hindi ko po alam kung marami sa inyo ay into curriculum or baka mabore kayo sa curriculum, but I want to excite you all. Kasi masaya siya. Ako lang siguro nasasayan. But the 5 macro skills here is listening, speaking, reading, writing, viewing. So saan papasok yung mga domains? And probably you might argue with me, ma'am, paano yung oral? Hindi ba din yan? Writing din naman yan. Of course, yung chinek lang namin siya kung saan siya dominant. Okay. So, yan lang naman po, no? Yan. Just to give you lang an overview. So, if you look at it, as you funnel it domains, these domains across key stage, of course, yung alphabet knowledge, yung phonics and word recognition, the listening the phonological skills awareness, hanggang K-3 lang yan. Alam nga naman mag-alphabet knowledge pa kayo hanggang grade 4. Alam nga naman, alphabet knowledge pa rin kayo hanggang grade 7. Siyempre, nag-grow ka na, di ba? Tapos ka na, memorize mo na yan. You needed to use it in the different way when you reach grade 4 to grade 6. So that's where grammar comes in. That's where viewing composition comes in. So may ganun siya. May mga domains na nawawala na when you go to 4 to 6. Pero ang magkahawig yung grades 4 to 10 para pareho na siya ng domains. Yan. Okay. Ma'am Nefertari, just let me know if I need to end na my presentation kasi parang mahaba na po ba. Ayan, you just let me know po. So, ayan.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So, okay. Yan po. So, when you assess a student, syempre kailangan competent siya in the language. At hindi lang dapat yun, nauunawaan niya dapat yun at na-apply niya. Hindi ka lang dapat magalang. So what? You don't understand it yourself. You just memorize it, but you also have to apply it. Yun, doon pumapasok yung Islamic values. Kaya dapat it has to come hand in hand. Hindi lang Arabic language. It also has to be Islamic values together. And then assessment procedure, holistic. Hindi mo lang tinitingnan yung vocabulary. Hindi mo lang tinitingnan yung what all the domains should work together. Yung oral language na, yung write-up niya, yung ganyan. Holistic dapat yan. And developmental appropriateness, kung ano lang yung kaya ng grade 1. Hindi mo naman pwede bigyan ng solid food, no? Yung kaya lang umuya for baby food. Yung ganon. So it has to be developmentally appropriate. So I will not be discussing this anymore, but just to show you na may key stage standard kami na pinapollow, no? When you're in K-3, itong 6-syllable words lang muna. Pag 4 to 6, medyo tumataas at nagpo-progress na siya. Hoping that sa 7 to 10, no, kaya niya nang maunawaan print and non-print and digital materials as tools to solve real world problems. Mahalaga po sa amin yon. Gusto namin may saysay ang isang bagay kung ito ay may gamit. Diba? May halaga kung may kwento. So dapat, application is always something that is important for us. Ayoko lang na marunong siya may tool ka lang. Para sa yung tool na yon, you have to use it. How? To solve real world problems. Alright, this is how it looks like for kindergarten. Draft lang yan kasi wala pa kaming Madrasa. So, hindi, but abangan nyo po, pag ito po yung na-upload na namin sa DepEd, makakakuha naman po kayo ng kopya. But just for you, no, as a sample that we can have, no, for this talk, this is how it looks. Iba siya eh. I'll show you later how it looks like for the elementary, secondary. Iba siya kasi play-based naman sa mga bata. Kaya yan yung mga aming paraan ng tingin po ng aming curriculum. Just make sure that you look into the left side kasi these are the learning competencies. Just a quick lang doon sa hindi into curriculum. So ito yung domains, usually we call this content topics. Domains pala ito ng language. And then content, ito yung mga gusto namin na topic na gusto ng pag-aralan. But of course, content should be translated into a behavior. Kaya may performance standard. Yung code, wag nyo naintindihan yan para sa amin po yan. And learning competencies, when you break the performance, paano nyo yan aaralin? Ito yung step 1. Ito yung step 2. At ito na yung 4. Kaya makukuha nyo na yung performance standard. So that is just how you look at the learning competencies. Okay? O yan. Pwede na kayo mag-apply sa DepEd. Alam niya na. O yan. O diba? Iba na siya when we go to grade 1. O, temo, yan ang curriculum ng kindergarten. Ito ang grade 1. C. Ito na yung quarter at saka yung week 1. Alphabet knowledge, then we have the phonological awareness, listening comprehension, oral language. Ayan. Ito na yung ating horizontal articulation. Diyan na nag-uusap-usap yung ating pagkaturo. So, pag nagturo ka ng for example, yung stories na ibibigay mo sa kanila, it has to do na something in relation to the learning of the letter ba. So, pag gumawa sila ng learning materials nila, isang learning material na yan agad for week 1. Mag-uusap-usapin na nila yan, mga competencies na yan, na ma-deliver nila sa isang module na gagawin nila. So, ganyan po kami gumawa sa aming curriculum. Okay? So, again, vertical articulation, humihirap yung domain na yon, paano yun na-apply as you go down vertically. Ayan. So, ito yung coding na ginagawa namin. Kasi kung hindi nyo naintindihan, but doesn't concern you anymore kasi medyo for mga curriculum, lang to. Yan. May mga coding kami ginagawa. And kailan siyang week tinuturo, gaano kahaba sa tinuturo. Of course, we code our competencies then. Which is important kasi mamaya I'll teach you how to do the math. Ayan. So, Islamic values, I'll just go through this also very fast lang din. Ito naman, tinitingnan namin, the development of their stages, no? Pagbabago. Sumusunod sila, naging believer, and then adapt to it, as I've mentioned already kanina. So, sabi ko nga, mahalaga sa amin na nakikita namin yung mga bata, no? Syempre, pag binibigyan mo sila ng mga teachings on Islam, many of them, we are already asking them to memorize some verses, yan. We are already teaching them the names of Allah. 99, at least meron na. Naku, talagang, po talaga to, nagtalo-talo kasi parang, hindi, kailangan, as early as this, alam na nila, ganyan. So, we have to listen to, to everyone, Tapos, dahil congested ang curriculum, yan naman ang problema. Tapos 40 minutes, yun po yung tatandaan nyo, no, na kalimitan namin. We are teaching it in 40 minutes. Paano naman yun? Tapos ngayon may helps pa. Ibig sabihin, mas kumonti ituturo namin. But for private Madaris, of course, aside from the Arabic language at saka Islamic values education, they can add more subjects. Yung sinasabi ni Ma'am Nefertari na kaya meron silang akida, may fiqh, yung ba yun? Tama po ba? Yun. So they can add those subjects pa. So mas kung ano yung hindi na-capture, pwede pa ma-capture sa private Madaris. Yan. So, kinonect na namin agad ito dun sa 4 core DepEd core values. What are the 4 core DepEd values? Maka-Diyos. Binigyan na namin siya ng counterpart agad sa Alive. Yan. Ang hubula. Yan. Makatao, makakalikasan, at makabansa. So, hindi na nalalayo. It's very much aligned. Kaya mahalaga din po talaga ang climate change sa amin, as mentioned by Ma'am Noor Hussein kanina. Ang pagiging makabansa at pagiging makatao. Of course, pagiging makadiyos. Yan. Nauna pa po tayo sa sa GMRC. Yung GMRC, bagong batas lang po yun, ginagawa na natin yung revisions natin sa Islamic values, pinattern nila from us yung kanilang mga changes sa curriculum. Ito po mahalaga sa amin, sa Islamic values. Lagi ko po sinasabi, a curriculum that cannot be implemented and seen in the lives of the students, na transformative siya as we want it to be, kasi we wanted the stages of transformation visible to our learners. Bali, wala ang curriculum. That's why in the curriculum for Islamic values, may 4 lang kaming competencies lagi per topic. 4 lang talaga. Ano yung 4 na yon? Una, pag-unawa ng content na yon. We call it, this is a process of what we call the head, heart, and hands. Yan. Lagi ko po itong i-explain. Head, kailangan maunawaan mo konsepto. Ano ibig sabihin ng pagmamahal sa Diyos, kay Allah? Ano ibig sabihin nito? Magnilay-nilay. Tinuruan ng bata mag-reflect. Ano bang ibig sabihin ang konsepto nito? Base sa Quran? Base sa katuruan ng Islam? Pagpasya. Binigyan mo siya ng dilema. Nakapagpasya siya. Ito yung dapat na tamang gawin. In let's say for honesty, it's a value, nagninay-dinay siya. Ito daw ang turo ng Quran tungkol sa honesty. Kaso binigyan mo siya ng dilema. Pag may nakatingin sa kanya, kaya na maging honest. Pag walang nakatingin, kaya pa rin ba niya maging honest? So you're already putting in some critical thinking there. Paano siya makakapagpasya ng tama o hindi, ng mali? So, tinuturuan natin dito ang mga bata to make a responsible decision-making skills. Yan. Tapos, pagkilos. Yun yung laging pang-4 na competency. Dapat matuto siyang gumawa ng tama. And gawin ito na parang parte ng kanyang or way of life. Yan. Again, I will not discuss with you anymore. You can do a screenshot of this. All I just wanted to say is may different key stage standards po tayo na gustong matutunan ng bata from K to 3, tapos 4 to 6, and then 7 to 10. Yan. Basta may spiral progression po tayo dyan gusto makita. Yan. Of course, we also have some grade level standards. Yung key level standards na yun, from K to 3, hinimay-himay din namin yan. And a general learning standard. So that's how the curriculum actually looks like. Yan. Ito na po ang batayang konsepto. So parang hirap magsulat ng curriculum kasi when you say pagmamahal sa Allah, mahalaga pa rin, ano ba yun? Ituturo mo lang yan ba sa kindergarten? May ituturo sa grade 1. At hihinto na ba yun? Hindi, ituturo mo pa rin yan hanggang grade 3 paano yung nagkaiba-iba? So dapat magkaroon tayo ng batayang konsepto. So ito po yung ginawa namin batayang konsepto para may nakakabit na po yan. Ito po yung basehan namin sa curriculum namin. Na kaya nga batayan, ito na yung standard ng concepts. Kung paano siya ituturo differently for each grade level and for each quarter. Yan. So, meron kami until grade 10. Yan. These are just samples, At nakita na namin paano din nagkatugma-tugma yung ilang mga tema ng bawat grade level. So, I will not, again, different lang siya sa 7, 8, 9, 10. tingnan nyo, meron na kaming na-develop na curriculum for 7 to 10, pero wala pa kaming nai-implement. Currently, hindi pa implemented po ito, no, sa ating mga bata. Ayan. So, ito na po itsura ng Islamic Values Curriculum. So, iba siya sa Arabic language, of course, kasi language yan. So, what does the Islamic Values Curriculum looks like? Yan. Ito yung maka-Diyos, kasi kindergarten to So, iba pa siya. Maka-Diyos, maka-tao, nakagano pa siya, makakalikasan, and then makabansa. Ala, may nag-iingay. Ayan. Sige po, sana narinig niyo pa ako. Ayan. So, yung pamatayang pagkatuto, ito po yung sabi ko lagi yung titingnan because these are the learning competencies, how it's broken down into specific steps, para ma-achieve mo yung performance standard and therefore achieving the content standard. Ito na yung sa grade 1. Sa grade 1 up to grade 10, medyo magkakamukha na po siya ng itsura ng ating curriculum na dun sa ating batayang konsepto, kung na-picture niya, na screenshot nyo, dito na namin in-apply how those content is being discussed here in the curriculum. Yan. So, again, sabi ko nga, apat-apat lang lagi ang aming competencies dyan. And again, when you look at the first competencies, yan yung pag-unawa. Tapos yung pangalawa, yung pagmilay, and then yung, pati ako nakalimot na, basta yung application yung dulo. Ayan. Making decisions yung pangatlo. Ayan. Ayan. So, okay. Let me now proceed to the discussion of the MELCs. Kasi nabanggit ko sa akin ni Ma'am Nefertari, Mildred, share din natin kung anong ginagawa ngayon na anong effort and DepEd to address yun nga na may pandemic tayo. So let me just share with you, just very fast. I hope I still have time to discuss this with you. So the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly affected countries and communities across the globe, disrupting the established systems of various industries and sectors. So in the education sector, schools have temporarily closed to contain the spread of the disease. So these nationwide closures are impacting almost 70% of the world's student population, with millions of additional learners affected by localized closure implemented in other countries. That's from UNESCO. So amidst this crisis, however, the importance of education as a foundation for all development remains unchanged. Thus, the Department of Education strives to navigate the changes to sustain the delivery of quality, accessible, relevant, and basic education learning continuity plan, or what we call the BELCP. Yeah, the BELCP. So it is a department's policy, a policy response to enable learners of basic education to continue learning and for teachers to be able to deliver instruction in a safe work and learning environment amid the threat of COVID-19. Yan. So kung makikita ninyo, ito na po yung ginawa ng DepEd. Now, how the most essential learning competencies are determined. Nakita nyo kanina yung curriculum, paano namin ito na-determine? The department collaborated with stakeholders, from the Assessment, Curriculum, and Technological Research Center, during which the descriptor endurance was considered the primary determining factor. So, ang tingin na namin dito are the learning competencies. Alin yung may endurance criterion? So, if it's enduring, it remains with the learners long after a test or unit of study is completed, or if it is useful beyond a single test or unit of study. So examples of such learning competencies include research skills, reading comprehension, writing, map reading, etc., etc. So again, learning competencies were defined as what student needs. Okay? So ito po yung, again, sinasabi natin na enduring. Paano natin masasabi na essential siya? O, di ba? Naging sikat yung word na essential, may deliver na Grab driver ng lugaw. Tapos tinanong, essential ba yan? O, yan. So, paano natin malalaman that a learning competency is essential? It should be aligned with national, state, and local standards or framework. Align siya sa mga frameworks natin. Pangalawa, it connects the content to higher concepts across content areas. Ibig sabihin, tinuro mo siya sa taas, pero hindi mo siya tinuturo sa basic. So it must be essential kasi kailangan siya, no, basic knowledge siya eh. Bago ka matuto ganito, kailangan ituro to. So that could be essential. It is also applicable to real life situations. And another criteria, if the students left school after this grade, it should be important for them to have this competency. Okay, wait lang. Yan. So, yun yung mga kakailanganin po natin na determinants if competency is essential. So, kami din may word na essential na ginagamit sa department. So, ano po yung gagawin namin if it's essential? Ito po yung mga procedure na ginagawa namin. We can either retain it. We retain it if it satisfies the endurance criterion, which contributes to lifelong learning and a prerequisite skill to the next grade level. Ano pa yung decision namin na pwedeng gawin? We merge it. Okay? Kasi nga, congested na eh. So we merge it. It is again, if the LCs have same objective or learning intention, we can actually merge it or cluster it to have the same objective or learning intention. We rephrase it. Another decision na ginagawa namin to be more concise or sometimes to be more responsive and relevant to the new normal learning setup. Kunyari, for example, no, sa PE, sa regular, paano mo gagawin yung basketball? Eh, wala na nga face-to-face. So we sometimes rephrase it para it can accommodate the online learning. Yan. Kaya kailangan rephrasing. And then drop. We drop it because it's already too specific and the articulation is similar to that of a learning objective. It's deemed appropriate to be introduced in an earlier quarter o nakita na namin siya sa ibang subject. Therefore, hindi na, kunyari, ituro naman na sa Arabic language, hindi na natin kailangan emphasize sa Islamic yan and vice versa, parang ganyan. So finally, yan, field implementers are encouraged to contextualize the most essential learning competencies in order to accommodate the varying context of learners, teachers, learning environments, and support structures. Yan. Let me just show you a sample of how we did it no, in the department. Ito yung steps namin in formulating the MELPs for the Arabic language. Ayan, we identify what is the essential learning competencies or what we call S. We determine the desirable learning competencies. Kasi nag gumawa ka nga ng competencies mo, ibig sabihin lahat yan mahalaga. Diba kaya nga siya nasa curriculum, mahalaga siya. But we only call those competencies na mahalaga as, okay, it's desirable, but you don't really need it kung ganitong bagyo, kung ganitong baha, kung ganitong may gera, yung ganon. Pag sinabing, tara na, kung ano lang pwede mong dalhin sa bag mo, yun lang. And those are the essential learning competencies or the S. Step 2, we define the most essential learning competencies out of the S. And then we make a decision. Dun sa mga natira na. Nag-decide pa kami, retain, drop, merge, or rephrase. Or cluster together. Yan. And then we finalize the most learning competencies. Again, these were the things or criteria that was we made na hindi lang to applicable for Arabic language and Islamic values. This is also applicable for math, science, MAPE, lahat. Ito po yung ating ginamit. And of course, we also consider a competency as essential if it's unique to IB. Pasok siya sa learning outcomes natin, characteristics of assessment, core learning standards, or key stage standards. Yan. Binigyan namin sila ng curriculum. Yung kaninang nakita ninyo, binigyan namin sila. Yung code, pinalitan muna namin ng 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yan. Per domain. So, list sa listening comprehension, 1, 2, 3, down. Hanggat sa nakita namin, okay, may 50 competencies per listening comprehension. Sa oral language, ilan? So, ninumberan. Binigay namin yan sa mga Arabic, writers. Okay. And then, what do we do after that? We identify the essential learning competencies. Nag-decide sila individually. Bakit siya essential? Ito, bakit siya desirable? So, we had a tallying sheet of each competency. Sinulat muna namin yung sa listening comprehension, 1 to 50 yan, tapos sinunod namin yung pangalawa na domain, na oral language, tapos kung ilan yung competencies, sinulat isa-isa, and they have to decide for each competency what is essential and what is desirable. Okay, so course, hindi ako masasatisfy sa ganyan. Hindi mo masasabi sa akin, essential, okay, ang aking tanong lagi, bakit? And the bakit is always important. So they have to give me the justification. Ma'am, kasi it's a duplication na. Okay. If it's a duplication, katulad na sabi ko kanina, hindi mo na kailangan ituro yan kasi naituro na dito, ganyan-ganyan. Pero of course, ako mahabang proseso pa po ito. Pwede tayo magkaroon ng MELCS 101 siguro next time, if you wanted to know more about this. But kasi pwede nga ako tanong yan, pag-duplication, di na pwede ulitin. Doesn't mean naman na pag-duplication, one time mo lang siya tuturo. Pwede naman niyang consistent pa rin, in the curriculum. But, in the mention of the curriculum for MELCS, one time mo lang siya ilalagay. So, you don't already need the LC number 2 and the LC number 3 because it's already a duplication. Yung A to F criteria, yun po yung kaninang pinakita kong criteria sa inyo. Yan. So, pag determine mo na yung S, mawawala na yung column for this. I-retain mo na lang yung S. And from the S, you would identify alin na yung MELCS dyan. Ayan. So, napapawasan na siya. Again, the justification is very important to me. That's why the writers need to present. Kasi pag hindi talaga ako na-satisfy, hindi talaga ako papaya. Bakit ganito? And then, I remember Sir Noor would be there, and the rest of my RPs, and they also question the writers. Anong dahilan, ganyan. But, of course, many of those choices were justified naman. And of course, the decision point. This is where the decision point comes in. O re-retain pa rin ba? Salang-sala po ito. I already cannot, finish. Hindi ko natapos yung table ko, like, how many LCs do we have in the original document and how many were retained in the MELCS. Let's just say more than half yung na-drop and only like half were retained. And even nakontian pa yung half na yon, naliitan pa kasi iba doon, merge, and then, merge. Kasi pag replace, that's still one eh. Pag merge mo, pag 2 competencies, magiging 1 na siya eh. So sabihin natin, more than 50, sabihin natin ang na-retain nasa 30% na lang from 100% or 40%. So ang tanong doon, ma'am, baka naman sacrifice natin yung maituturo natin sa kanila. Well, we just really have to choose what is essential, I guess. Yun eh. It was a hard decision to let go of something if you really know it's essential, but really just, deciding on what is most essential. Darating ka talaga sa buhay mo, talaga mag-decide ka, ito lang eh. Mamimiling ka lang talaga. And I hope we really did justice on that kasi this was already presented several times at diniscuss talaga yun ng maraming tao. Ayan, so ganito na po naging itsura ng MELCS namin sa Arabic language. So again, we are only given like 7 weeks for teaching and the 8th week is a summative. So kung 4 quarters siya, again, still for 40 minutes pa rin po ito natutulog. So 7, 14, 21, 28 weeks na lang yung teaching weeks namin and then 4 weeks for summative. So all in all, that's 32 weeks. Ayan. Ganun yung difference po ng MELCS dun sa sa regular curriculum namin. So ganito naman itsura sa IVE. Kasi kanina pinakita ko, hindi ko na pinakita paano yung proseso ng paggawa ng SDS kasi pareho lang naman except that ganito naman yung itsura niya. Yung competencies for IVE, week 1, week 2, week 3, yan. Again, hanggang 7 weeks lang po yung tinira nila kasi 8 week ay summative. So, ganun din po, ang natirang MELCS na lang po dito is more than half natanggal. So, even yung half na yon again, para din sa Arabic language, na mas nakontian pa po. How do we move forward? This is my last slide na po. How do we move forward? So, well, the MELCS were chosen for its endurance as its main criterion and anchored on the respective non-negotiable content and performance standards. Likewise, in the development of the MELCS, a great consideration was also given on how the process of teaching and learning happens when education is in crisis. Within a process or within a context where there is limited time and resources and learning is mostly done at home and the parents and guardians serves as the learner's primary teachers. Imagine, we also have to consider that. Teka, sino magtuturo ng Arabic language teachers? Parents, kano ba kalalim ang kanila? Ganon. We also have to consider that. Anong tuturo natin? Sino magtuturo sa kanila? Okay. These times may be difficult times for many of us. But this can also be a great time for us to cultivate and promote solidarity and unity in diversity amidst the crisis. So, through the efforts of the Department of Education, pinag-isipan, alaanan ng oras, pinag-usapan, down to the field, kung sino nag-implement na ito, we are hoping to continually address the needs and concerns of our Muslim learners who are imbued with unique qualities and needs. So they will also be provided with basic, accessible, but not only accessible, quality, and culture-based madrasa education. So yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po and thank you for listening. Sorry po kung napahaba, Ma'am Nefertari, but I hope you gained something po from this presentation. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Ma'am Mildred. I think it was also quite a tall order to ask you to speak on all these things. Hindi naman natin maiwasan kasi nagbibigay nga kayo ng overview ng DepEd Muslim Education Program. Idadagdag pa doon yung most essential learning competencies that we had to go through. I was privileged to have joined you during the time, as well as other of our colleagues here. So thank you, Ma'am Mildred. Actually, there are already questions in the chat box in the Q&A, but let's just wait for them. I think you can also look at them over at the chat box while we have Dr. Noor to speak on the program of the Commission on Higher Education. For us also to see the continuum. What is the continuum for the Muslim education program of the government? Again, maraming salamat, Ma'am Mildred. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Noor Hussein, may we have you on board to speak on the AB, Islamic Studies program of the CHED, as well as the general policy standards and guidelines that have been developed.
Thank you.
Sir, may we have your video on, sir?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I will start with my presentation, I would like to say good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wal barakatuhu. And I would like also to thank Ma'am Nefertari for that kind introduction a while ago. So before I will start my presentation, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer, the Center for Integrative and Development Studies of the University of the Philippines, specifically the men and women behind the Islamic Studies program. I am privileged indeed this afternoon to share with you the journey milestone of the Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies program of the Commission on Higher Education, of course, focusing on the policies, standards, and guidelines. I think you might be wondering why a DepEd personnel is the one presenting the topic, not anyone from the higher education institution, nor from the Commission on Higher Education. For the information of everyone, before I joined the Department of Education in 2015 during the implementation of the rationalization program, I was then connected with Universidad de Zamboanga, formerly Zamboanga AE Colleges. The late Dr. Arturo F. Eustaquio, the president of Universidad de Zamboanga before, was one of the pioneered members of the Technical Committee on Islamic Studies program of the Commission on Higher Education after he was reverted to Islam. After his death, I was recommended to submit my credentials to Commission on Higher Education for his replacement as a member of the Technical Committee on Islamic Studies. Luckily, I was accepted and approved by the Commission and Bank to be one of the members of the Technical Committee for Islamic Studies program. And of course, the rest is history. Now allow me to present my PowerPoint presentation. Again, this afternoon, I am tasked to share and facilitate with you the Commission on Higher Education Policies, Standards, and Guidelines of the Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies. Is my presentation visible, Ma'am Arsad?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's
Thank
it's
you.
visible.
So this afternoon, I will be focusing more on the policy, standard, and guidelines of the Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies program of Commission on Higher Education. And of course, I will take you to the journey milestone. How did this Islamic Studies start? No, when they crafted the PSG, no, for the Commission on Higher Education. So this is the outline of my presentation. First, I will be presenting to you the journey milestone of Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies. Then second, let's take a look into the overview of the new curriculum. No, honestly, we cannot really share the detail of the new curriculum because we still have to wait for the approval by the Commission and Bank. No, the new curriculum of this Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Study. So we are still awaiting for this one, and on the part of the technical committee, the present technical committee, we are still on the process of looking into other aspects to make this curriculum responsive, no, and relevant to the industry's needs and other perspective. So we will be having some sort of the salient features of this new curriculum. And of course, lastly, I will be presenting to you the issuance of certificate of equivalency and eligibility, especially those who earn their degree abroad. No, so you can submit your credentials to Commission on Higher Education, and then the TC Islamic Studies will look into this and recommend, no, to Commission on Higher Education. Commission on Higher Education to issue a certificate of equivalency and eligibility. For the objective, no, of this session, of course, number one, let's have a glimpse of the journey milestone of Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies. Baka meron din sa mga participants natin na hindi nyo alam, nag-exist pala ito. May programa ang Commission on Higher Education sa Islamic Studies, no, for the higher education institution. Very few only have implemented this program, no, the Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies. Then second, gain knowledge and the overview of the new curriculum, no, because I will be presenting a comparison, no, between the old curriculum and the new curriculum, no. So we are now on the stage of finalizing this new curriculum and then submit to CHED for the decision, no, sa Commission and Bank, no, for the approval so that we can have a public hearing. And lastly, of course, I will be presenting to you how the CHED will issue a certificate for equivalency and eligibility. So now let's have this journey milestone of the Bachelor of Arts Islamic Studies program. Kailan ba ito nagsimula, no? This program, no, before pa 2007, no, the Commission on Higher Education had organized already a technical committee to look into this program. So they invited a panel of experts, no, to provide expertise on this particular developmental, disciplinary, and degree program roadmap. Of course, looking into revision and updating of the PSGs, no, based on the direction set by Commission on Higher Education. So noon pa hong before pa hong 2007 nagsimula na ho ang Commission on Higher Education to look into this program, and they started identifying the panel of experts who will compose the technical committee to sit and look into the curriculum. So ito ho ang mga technical experts, no, na imbitahan ng Commission on Higher Education, no, nung 2000, before 2007 pa, to sit and look into this Islamic Studies program. So first, members of the technical committee composed of Admiral Garcia. He was the chairperson, just like President Arturo. President Arturo F. Eustaquio of Universidad de Zamboanga. He was also reverted, no? He is reverted rather to Islam, no? And then, of course, the president of the Universidad de Zamboanga before, Dr. Arturo F. Eustaquio, and Mr. Roque Morales. Sila ho ang kauna-unahang miyembro ng Technical Committee on Islamic Study na upo at tiningnan, no, ang curriculum for the Islamic Studies. Second, members of the Technical Committee, naimbitahan na ho si Dr. Mashur Jundam of the Institute of Islamic Studies of University of the Philippines as a chairperson, kasi si Admiral Garcia nag-move po doon sa Maritime Education, no, sa Commission on Higher Education. Siya rin ho ang ginawang chairperson doon. So Dr. Jundam was invited to sit as a chairperson of the Technical Committee on Islamic Studies. Then yun na ho, unti-unti na ho ang pagbabago, no, or ang transitioning ng curriculum, dahil ang dami ng mga perspective tinitingnan. And then of course still Arturo F. Eustaquio, the then president of Universidad de Zamboanga, and of course the Professor Abdul Hadi T. Dagit. Ngayon siya na ho ang isa sa mga commissioner ng National Commission on Muslim Filipino, and at the same time connected din siya sa University of the Philippines Islamic Studies. So sila ho ang nagiging members ng technical committee, second members of the technical committee. So nagkaroon din ho ng pangatlo, no? Still Dr. Mashur Jundam was the chairperson, and then Professor Abdul Hadi T. Dagit nandoon. Noon na ho ang panahon na imbitahan na ho ako because the president of the university, Dr. Arturo Eustaquio III, passed away, no? So yun sabi ko kanina sa introduction, the chair asked me to submit my credential, and then luckily I was given an opportunity to sit as a member of this technical committee, no? Particularly looking into the technical perspective of the curriculum, because I am not so much into, you know, intensive knowledge when it comes to the perspective of Islam, no? So though I have a knowledge, but not so much, no. But looking into the curriculum itself, no, particularly the technical perspective of the curriculum. And then ngayon ho, ito na, no, as ang bago, no, members of the technical committee. So Professor Dagit is now our chairperson, of course yours truly. And then itong behind this webinar, no, si Prof. Nefertari Arsad. So kung meron tayong mga katanungan, so si Ma'am Arsad can also shed light or can answer also your query. And of course, Dr. Jamil R. Kayamuddin of the Mindanao State University, Marawi City. So kami na ho ngayon ang nauupo and then tinitingnan na namin ang curriculum, no? So talagang ang haba ng panahon na ginugol namin for the new curriculum. So as I've said kanina, I cannot give the full detail of the new curriculum. So parang pa-surprise effect, no? Not necessarily. Pero naghihintay na lang ho kami ng pagkatapos siguro ng meeting namin, magsiset kami ng another meeting and then submit again to CHED para sa madesisyonan na ng Commission and Bank for the approval so that we can have a public hearing. Now let's take a look into the curriculum, no, which was designed and crafted, no, by the first, second, and the third members of the technical committee, even the current members of the technical committee. Okay, so 2008. No, after conducting all the preliminaries like public hearing, kasi hindi ho po pwede ma-implement ang isang curriculum sa Commission on Higher Education pag hindi ho dadaan sa public hearing. So kung I think if not of this pandemic, we are done already with the curriculum and even this public hearing, then target sana namin ma-implement na itong sa 2019 pa, no, ma-implement na ang curriculum, no, but because of the pandemic, no, it halted everything, no, so wala rin tayong magawa kundi titingnan na lang natin yung sitwasyon at ano ang magagawa natin. So ang meeting namin lahat ay more on virtual, no, dati face to face or in person discussion ang ginagawa namin, but by this time, nagbi-virtual na lang kami. So itong curriculum, after the first, the second, the third, and even the current members of the technical committees have looked into the curriculum, no? Kasi ako naabutan pa yung curriculum na yon. I think among the current members, kami at ni Prof. Dagit. So, senior si Prof. Dagit, then ako. Ito na ho, nung 2008, no? By the virtue of CMO number 30 series of 2008, the Bachelor of Arts Islamic Studies program, PSG, no? Program Standards and Guidelines was released. And then it was disseminated to all the higher education institutions for implementation. So this is the CHED Memo 30 series of 2008. So there were a higher education institution who accepted and implemented this curriculum. Isa na din ho ang Universidad de Zamboanga. In fact, nagkaroon kami ng Institute of Islamic Studies for this one. Unfortunately, wala akong taker during those time, no? Kasi, ang trend noon was on the allied medicine. So much of our learners, no, enrolled in the School of Allied Medicine. So wala kaming taker, so eventually na-close din yung Institute of Islamic Study of Universidad de Zamboanga. Okay. So ano ho itong objective ng ABIS program, no? Noong dinesign and dinevelop ito. Isa ho ang tinitingnan nila dito na the perspective that Islam is a way of life, no? So since it is a way of life, no, it can be integrated all throughout. So sa economic, social, cultural, political, legal aspects na perspective itong curriculum na to. That's why nabuo nila yung political economy as one of the specialization of this old curriculum, no, ng ABIS. And then the second is the Islamic arts and multimedia technology. So second objective ho no ng ABIS program, nung naupo ho ang mga members ng technical committee, isa ho itong tinitingnan nila to create a pool of experts and scholars who would contribute to the education of Muslim and non-Muslims, as well as in the integration of the Muslim Filipinos into the mainstream Philippine society. So ito ho ang isa sa mga aspeto tiningnan ng members of the technical committee. Dapat there should be a pool of experts or scholars that could give or contribute, no, to the education of Muslim and non-Muslims. Non-Muslims in the sense na those who wish to also learn about Islamic, no, or Islam, no, in the perspective of this Islamic studies, so pupwede ho. Kaya ito ho ang na-craft nilang objective or isang goal ng ABIS, no, to contribute to the education and Muslim education, non-Muslim, no, as well as in the integration of the Muslim into the Philippine society. So, ang Bachelor of Arts and Islamic Studies, no, this is a 4-year degree program having 2 specializations. One is the political economy. The political economy perspective of this ABIS program is designed, no, to study, analyze, and develop an understanding and appreciation of the global interrelationship of politics and economy. So much of the courses na nailagay doon sa political economy are focused on international political economy, no? Islamic banking and finance, Islamic laws and practices on inheritance. So nakafocus doon yung specialization ng political economy, no? So tinitingnan yung ano ba ang perspective ng political economy in the Islamic way, no? At saka ano ba ito ang mga Islamic perspective when it comes to banking and finance, and then even on the laws and practices on inheritance. So doon ho nakafocus or ang political economy as one of the specialization of the Bachelor of Arts and Islamic Studies. Second, no, ito napakaganda. In fact, nung naupo na ang another set of the members of the technical committee, tiningnan nila ano itong perspective ng isang specialization, no? Islamic Arts and Multimedia Technology. So this Islamic Arts and Multimedia Technologies, this specialization is designed to analyze and study the Islamic arts, no, through digital and multimedia technology. So responsive siya, di ba? So ito na yung with the advent of technology. So kinakailangan din, no, papaano natin if we do research on the Islamic arts using the multimedia technology as a tool, no? I think this would provide an opportunity, no, for the students to look into the aesthetic characteristics of the Islamic arts, no, such as calligraphy, geometry, and this arabesque pattern, no, of the Islamic arts. So part of this specialization are focused on the Islamic arts and calligraphy, religious decorative arts, 2D Islamic arts and creative designs, and design with computer application, no? And even digital audio video. Ito ho ang binigyan ng emphasis dito sa Islamic arts and multimedia technology. So kung titingnan natin yung curriculum, no? Itong curriculum na to ng Bachelor of Arts and Islamic Studies. So mayroon hong talagang pagkakaiba yung dalawang specialization kung ano lang ang focus niya, no? So the first one is focused on the political economy, and the other one on Islamic arts and multimedia technology. Of course, kasama din dito yung mga core courses, no, ng ABIS, no? Kasi itong core courses na to, or the foundation, no, course includes elementary, intermediate, and advanced Arabic language. Then kasama din dito yung structure, morphology, and syntax of Arabic language, Arabic literature prior to Quran, Lugatul of Quran, and historical foundation of Hadith. These are the core courses na both political economy at saka Islamic arts and multimedia technology, nandoon itong core courses na to. So towards the end of the 4-year, no, meron din silang mga thesis or on-job training, no, doon sa political economy at saka dito sa Islamic arts and multimedia technology. And take note, nung una, even now, no, the CHED is only setting, no, or providing the higher education institution a minimum requirements, no, to be included in that curriculum. So minimum lang ho ang siniset ng CHED, and then higher education institution can have their own peculiar, no, courses that could be added into the curriculum. So ito ho ang dalawang specialization ng Bachelor of Arts and Islamic Studies noong na-release yung PSG, no, ng ABIS in 2008. So now let's take a look into the current, no, or the new curriculum that we are doing right now. So the current members of the technical committee, again, tiningnan namin, no, intensively reviewed the policies and the standards of this ABIS, no. So noong pang 2008, and then tinitingnan ano na ho ba ang mga kailangan, no, in terms of industry needs, no, and other perspective na pwede titingnan mo so that you can take a look into the curriculum, so para magiging responsive siya ang curriculum na to. So ito yung mga salient features na where the new members of the technical committee look into, and then we anchored, no, on this perspective, no. One is the learning competency based standards or outcome based education. Isa ho ito ang tiningnan namin, no, ni na Ma'am Arsad and other members, Professor David and Dr. Kayamuddin, to be outcome-based education itong ABIS na to. So pag sinabi natin outcome-based education, dapat na-demonstrate ng bata ang lahat ng mga competencies set forth in the curriculum. So ibig sabihin, hindi lang yon knowledge, no, aspect, dapat nandoon din yung skills na yon. Kaya when we look into the old curriculum, ang dami rin namin tiningnan, no, aside from this outcome-based education, we also look into the perspective sa mga Muslim education, ano pa ba ang mga in demand, no, or magiging responsive ang ating curriculum. Of course, itong Philippine Quality Framework, isa ito sa mga basis din, no, tinitingnan natin para magiging at par tayo with our ASEAN, no, counterpart when it comes to mastery of competencies. So dito ho nakaangkla yung bagong curriculum na inupuan at pinag-diskasan at tiningnan, hinimay-himay namin itong curriculum. Kaya makikita ninyo, no, ang bagong curriculum, this is intended to provide foundational knowledge on Islam and its holistic application to human life. So the program purviews the Islamic worldview and its relevance to many disciplines. So napaka-holistic na ho ang perspective ng bagong curriculum. Kaya because of this outcome-based education, ito ho ang nabuong program goals for the Bachelor of Arts and Islamic Studies. Okay, one, that the students can demonstrate an understanding of and or practice Islam as a way of life in the context of economic, social, cultural, political, and legal aspects. So, nandoon pa rin ang yung sa old curriculum, pero dilagyan na namin ng can demonstrate. Ibig sabihin, after they earn the degree, it is expected from the students, no, to demonstrate the skills and knowledge that they have learned, no, from a specific specialization of the ABIS program, no. So mayroon na ho kaming dinagdag, no, doon sa mga specialization ng bagong curriculum. As I've said kanina, uulitin ko, let me reiterate, I cannot really give the full detail of the new curriculum since this is not yet approved by the Commission and Bank. So we have to wait for the approval, and then after that we can have a public hearing, then we can release, no, this new curriculum. Second, are professionals and or scholars in Islamic studies who would contribute to socioeconomic development, the education of Muslim and non-Muslim, as well as to be more, to be more productive integration of Muslim Filipinos into Philippine society. So we attune, the program goals of the new curriculum to the old curriculum, but in the context of the education-based, outcome-based education. So dito ho umiikot yung ABIS program, in terms of the program goals. So let's take a look into the curriculum. Yung old curriculum, which we had this, which I invited you for a brief journey of looking into the old curriculum, no? Kung kailan nagsisimula hanggang sa nabuo itong curriculum. And then of course the new curriculum. So if you notice, yung una, dalawa lang ho yung specialization. One is the political economy, and the other one is Islamic arts and multimedia technology, which I discussed kanina, no, and share with you. And then itong new curriculum, meron na hong 5, no, specialization ng bagong curriculum. Isa ho dito yung Islamic law and jurisprudence, no. I think members, of the technical committee, I think like in the person of Professor Dagi, Professor Arsad, and Dr. Kayamuddin, no? Isa ito sa mga suggestion nila na dapat isa ito sa mga specialization na meron ang ABIS, no? Yung Islamic law and jurisprudence. Second is the halal studies. So if you notice, kasama na ho ang halal studies sa specialization because this is very timely, no? Yung sa discussion namin, nakikita din namin itong mga halal industry parang booming na, no? Especially in the Middle East countries and even in other Asian countries like in Thailand, no? Talagang yung halal industry nila very intensive talaga. So maganda rin ito, no, sa mga bata na maintindihan nila ng lubusan itong halal studies na to. Ano ba ang mga aspeto which is included in these halal studies. And then third is the Philippine Muslim culture and society. So isa rin ito sa magandang aspeto in terms of specialization ng ABIS, no? Itong Philippine Muslim culture and society. Ito rin mo ang tinitingnan dito kung papaano ho ang kultura at papaano ho din ang society in the context of Islam, no? So tinitingnan din dito ang isa rin ito sa part din ng curriculum na to, yung perspective kung papaano rin yung aspeto ng history ng Philippine Muslim culture and society. And of course, yung Arabic language, no? Advanced na ho talaga itong Arabic language na to. And lastly, just to harmonize with the previous specialization which is on the political economy, so nilagay ho dito itong Islamic economics, no? So ito ho ang 5 specialization ng bagong curriculum ng Bachelor of Arts and Islamic Studies. So hintay-hintay na lang ho natin, no? Baka matapos na rin namin ito and then maisumitin na sa commission in bank, no, para ma-decisionan na, and then we can have a public hearing so that ma-implement na ho itong bagong curriculum natin. So mawawala na ho, superseded na yung previous na yung Political Economy, Islamic Arts and Multimedia Technology. So ito na ho ang mangingibabaw bilang specialization ng Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies. So to continue with the comparison with this old curriculum and the new curriculum, if you notice din sa number of units, no? Of course, dati yung general education umaabot ng 63 units, ngayon nabawasan na. This is also because of the additional grade level, yung senior high school sa Department of Education. So may mga courses sa general education which are now in the senior high school curriculum, no? Nailagay doon. So if you notice, sa bago natin, nagiging 39 units na lang yung general education courses natin. And then ang core courses before, 20 units. Ngayon, dinamihan, no, ang core courses, nagiging 48 units. And then the specialization, 42. Ang specialization natin dito, 12 units bawat specialization yon, no? 12 units bawat specialization. So we have 5 specialization. And then meron din tayo sa bagong curriculum na foreign language na 6 units foreign language. And then meron din hong pre-elective na 6 units. And then of course kasama sa bagong curriculum natin, separate na ho. Dati sa old curriculum, pipili lang yung bata whether to have a thesis writing or they will be having their practicum or on-job training. But this time, it is a separate course, no? Students will have their thesis writing and eventually they can have their practicum, no? So, ito ho yung mga salient features ng bagong curriculum natin. At saka, of course, if we are going to compare with our old curriculum natin. Okay. And isa rin sa maganda dito, no, yung bata after their graduation, no, they can have their on-job training sa mga non-government organization, of course with advocacy on Muslim affairs. They can have also their practicum or on-the-job training sa mga Islamic embassies, no, even Madras schools. business establishments, especially on the halal side, and even in the government organization and other foreign agencies na pwede nilang magkaroon sila ng kanilang practical training as far as the competencies of the new curriculum. So yun ho ang Bachelor of Arts and Islamic Studies. So I started with how this Bachelor of Arts Islamic Studies program had been conceptualized, and then transition na siya, and then having now the new curriculum. Again, as far as the new curriculum is concerned, I cannot really give much detail on this. Perhaps you will be invited again during our public hearing, and then we can present the entire perspective of the new curriculum, even the detail, particularly on the different courses or the subjects set forth in this new curriculum. Now, for my last topic, let me invite you to this issuance of Certificate of Equivalency and Eligibility. Baka mayroon pa ho sa atin na hindi alam, if you earn a degree from abroad, then you can submit to the Commission on Higher Education, then the Technical Committee on Islamic Studies, if it is a degree earned abroad na on the perspective of the Islamic Studies, or the Islamic jurisprudence, or related doon sa Islamic Studies. So yung TC ho na uupo, nag-evaluate, evaluating and assessing the credentials, and then recommend. So ito ho ang legal perspective ng issuance of Certificate of Equivalency and Eligibility. This is enshrined in CMO 2 series of 2008. So the CHED recognizes the globalization, changing foreign policies, and liberalization of trade in goods and services worldwide have created a climate for borderless teaching and learning, as well as expanded of the opportunities for transnational education. So because of this, entertain the Commission on Higher Education those individuals who earn their degrees abroad, and then tinitingnan, ina-assess ano ang magiging equivalent niya, and then binibigyan siya ng certificate of equivalency and eligibility. Say for example, yung undergraduate degree mo na earn mo doon sa University of Adsar University, say for example, and then pagdating dito, so ini-equate yon, tinitingnan, ina-assess, and then after that, mabigyan ka ng certificate, then you can proceed to graduate studies like enrolling in a master's program, in any higher education institution recognized by Commission on Higher Education. Okay, of course, in the perspective of the one mentioned earlier, and with the rapid development, information and communication technology, then promotes access to foreign qualification, degrees, certificate, and diplomas. So allow me to walk through to the evaluation sheet kung saan yung nitty-gritty or the detail of issuance of certificate of equivalency and eligibility. Okay. So first, of course, ito ang binibigay ito sa applicant, and then tinitingnan. So isa yan sa mga dapat i-accomplish ng applicant na gusto niyang magpa-issue ng certificate of equivalency and eligibility ay yung request for the degree And then ano ba ang mga dapat na i-attach niya doon? So yun na, isa doon ang letter of request, no? Letter request. And then kasama doon yung diploma at saka transcript of record niya, kung saan niya yun na-earn yung degree. Then a copy of course description, then ang curriculum, then ang program plan, and then kasama din doon yung passport niya. So ito ho ang mga requirements na kailangan ma-comply ng isang applicant na gustong makakuha ng Certificate of Equivalency and Eligibility. After that, no, the applicant will submit doon sa Commission on Higher Education kung saan siya locality or naka-reside. So meron tayong mga regional offices, no, ng Commission on Higher Education. So i-submit doon, and then yung regional office na yon i-endorse sa CHED OPSD, no? And then ang CHED OPSD ito sa central office na. So yung regional office i-endorse na yon, kasama na lahat yung mga attachment submitted by the applicant, and then forwarded, no, endorsed to the CHED OPSD. And then the CHED OPSD acknowledged, no, to client, and then endorsed now to CHED TC Islamic Study for evaluation. So doon na ho tinitingnan ni na Ma'am Arsad, Dr. Kayamuddin, and Professor Dagit, no? And of course yours truly, no, the diploma, the transcript of record, and everything, no, na submitted by applicant. So after that, so ilalagay doon ano ang purpose ng request, no? Okay, for employment purposes, for licentiate examination ba, for further studies, and other, they will just simply specify. Then the CHED International Affairs will look into this one, no, in terms of verification, no, after dito sa amin ma-forward na, and then tinitingnan na namin ito using this one. Ito ho yung last part na ng evaluation sheet kung saan na-affix na namin ang signature if our evaluation and assessment based doon sa mga credential submitted by the applicant, then we will now recommend to the CHED, no, for the issuance of the certificate of equivalency and eligibility. So dito ho nagtatapos ang aking discussion hinggil sa Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies, particularly the policies, guidelines, and standards. Of course, isiningit ko na rin itong issuance of Certificate of Equivalency and Eligibility. With this, sukran, magsukul, and thank you. Wassalam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noor, for sharing that. Indeed, the CHED Technical Committee on Islamic Studies has a lot of things to do. And because of the pandemic, this has certainly been rescheduled or delayed for quite a while. And thank you for sharing all of these services that the TC in Islamic Studies is doing under the auspices of the Commission on Higher Education.
My pleasure, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We have several questions. While Ma'am Mildred was speaking earlier, there are already about 3 questions to her. And then there are also questions and reactions to you, Dr. Noor. Okay, may I call on our moderator for this afternoon, our university researcher of the Institute of Islamic Studies, Mr. Kamaruddin Muhammad. I think we will go through chronologically. There have been questions much earlier for Ma'am Mildred. Thank you.
Po yung lingkod, si Sir Kamar ng Institute of Islamic Studies. At ngayong hapon po ay tayo yung moderator. At noong umaga si Sir Umog, kasama rin natin sa Research Publication Extension Service o Department ng UP Institute of Islamic Studies. Ngayon ay ating pong babasahin ilang mga katanungan dito at actually mayroon isang suggestion mula sa ating kalugod-lugod na doktor, si Dr. Limba, kilala natin siya personally. So yun, ang unang tanong po ay nandito, babasahin natin. Actually, 4 lamang yung nakaregister sa akin na tanong sa akin note. Wala pa pong dumagdag, maya-maya namang may habol na mga katanungan. At ikikita natin yan siya. Unahin muna natin itong 4 na ito. No? Una, naka-address ito kay Ma'am Mildred po. Ma'am Mildred. No? Ang unang katanungan para kay Ma'am Mildred. Galing kay Sir Muhammad Noor Hussein. Ganito po yung tanong. Is there a study or assessment in the Alive program? As a parent of grade schoolers in DepEd, my kids seem to miss quality Alive learning. What I got from the lesson from my kids were Arabic alphabet and greetings only. Dalawa lamang po yung kanyang nababasa sa mga lecture ng mga bata. Base sa kanyang assessment sa ginagawa ng kanyang anak niya.
Wow.
Then no more other lessons written on their notes. How serious are the Alive teachers? Yun yung ganyang medyo mabigat na tanong. Sige po, tanong niyo. Kasagutan po muna kay Ma'am.
Alright, maraming salamat po for that question. I didn't get the name po of who asked the question. Maganda pong tanong yan kasi ang naging problema po sa DepEd after the rationalization, noong unang panahon, pag may hawak kang programa sa isang office, nandun na ang curriculum, nandun na ang delivery, nandun na ang assessment. Ganun po yung structure ng DepEd noon. But after the rationalization, hiniwalay po nila ang Bureau of Curriculum Development sa Bureau of Curriculum Development. And therefore, ang hawak ng curriculum development ay lahat ng curriculum from kindergarten up to up to senior high school. Therefore, na hiwalay si learning delivery. The problem with that is there's a very thin line in curriculum and instruction, in delivery. So, kahit gaano kakanda yung curriculum mo, tama po yung tanong ninyo, observation po ninyo, kaya isa po yan sa susunod na ayusin is that ayusin yung curriculum support systems para ma-implement siya ng maayos. And what are the curriculum support system? These are teachers, assessment, ito yung school leadership, ito kasi yung advocacy mo ng Alive program, at marami pang iba. So, kasi pag hindi, katulad dito, in-enhance yung curriculum, kung hindi handa yung curriculum support system mo, kahit gaano kaganda yung polisiya mo, it's going to be a curriculum failure or a curriculum policy failure. So, that's a really good observation. That's why medyo naghihinay-hinay ako sa pag-release ng secondary, na curriculum for secondary, kasi I'm also trying to look into the factors of how ready are our teachers for a secondary na curriculum. Kasi kung assessment man lang sa ating mga teachers in the elementary, tapos ganun po yung napapansin po ninyo, tulad po na sinabi ninyo, therefore, we need to focus on that more bago ma-stabilize muna yon before we proceed to the secondary level. So, yes, because of some changes in the structure within DepEd, kailangan lang po ma-restructure din kung paano magkakaroon ng maayos na continuity ng aming mga programa sa pag-uusap-usap po nitong mga under sa curriculum and instruction, which includes curriculum development, Bureau of Learning Delivery, Bureau of Assessment, Bureau of Learning Resources. Yan po yung mahalagang 4 po na bureaus na dapat po mag-usap-usap para maging maayos po ang implementation nito. So my answer to that, yes, I think we still have a problem sa ating pag-capacitate ng ating mga teachers para talagang maging maayos po ang pag-deliver nito. Again po, that will be under the Bureau of Learning Delivery. Isa rin pong bureau sa aming pong departamento. Pero maipaparating po natin din yung ating concern para maging maayos po ang Alive program.
Sir Kamar, unmute please.
Sorry po. Uunahin ko muna yung mga katanungan po kay Ma'am Mildred, and then later on we'll go to Sir Noor. No? Nandito yung mga katanungan sa kanya sa may Q&A box. So unahin muna natin yung nakalista katanungan para kay Ma'am Mildred. Pangalawang tanong po, what are the methodologies of monitoring and evaluation for a live program, both teachers and students? Since implementation, what have we achieved so far? What are the quality indicators that directly manifested in alive students, such as do we have exceptional or promising alive students prospering in such curriculum? Maraming question eh. Una, ano methodology sa monitoring and evaluation? Pangalawa, ano na ba yung inabot? Hanggang saan na ba tayo? At pangatlo, ano yung indicators no, na nagsasabi na may mga estudyante tayo na nag-propose or na nagiging exceptional, nagiging parang sabihin na natin kakaroon ng mga awards and so on and so forth. Pagdating sa allied program. Yun po.
Okay. Again, that's a good question. Most of the questions are related to learning delivery, which is not under our bureau. But I will still have to answer that question. Siguro, again, I think since the time that I handled this program and made some enhancement of the curriculum, the people who handled siguro the program were no longer the people who are handling this program now. So I think yung restructuring siguro no ng paano talaga mas kita matutulong yung mga teachers natin dito. Again, I think ang pinakamalaking dapat capacity talaga dito. Maganda po yung tanong is really our teachers. We still have ang ginagawa naman din po no ng ating kasamahan po ng mga katrabaho po sa DepEd is they go and visit the schools. Isa na po sa nagawa nila was really to monitor what are the schools no in the Alive program. Marami po sa mga schools dito na isulat as school. Again, may mga financial assistance po kasi kami binibigay nila dyan. And then what we found out that there are really schools that are not existing pala talaga. So we have to scrap them from the list kasi wala naman pala talagang school na gano'n. So isa yun sa mga inayos ng DepEd when it came to the monitoring and evaluation. They really went to these areas na kung saan po yung mga schools nakalocate. And then, yun lang, and finalize this list of schools na aling talaga yung matutulungan. Isa sa mga ginagawa po ng DepEd to capacitate the teachers, they have several yung mga LEAP program natin na tinutulungan ng mga teachers natin in the area of learning the English language at the same time kasi karamihan po sa mga teachers natin pa ngayon are not left passers, so pero magaling sila sa Arabic at because they are Muslim, malalim ang kanilang Islamic Studies na teachings and values. So syempre, ang marami sa DepEd are non-Muslims, but they cannot teach Arabic. They cannot also teach Islamic values. So, paano itong mga teachers na to? They are not left passers, but they have the content. So, ang ginawa po ng DepEd is to get these teachers and made them parang COS, contract of service sila. Pero hoping that later on, if you are still going to stay longer in DepEd, kukuha sila ng certain equivalent points para talagang ma-permanent sila as teachers and also allow them, provide them some years so that they can also pass the LET exam. So meron lang kaming parang assessment for the teachers for them to be accommodated sa DepEd but as contract of service kasi nga po they are not talagang professional teachers in that sense but they're good in Arabic and Islamic. So these are some monitoring na evaluation that we do for teachers. Maganda po yung tanong sa curriculum kasi sa curriculum ngayon pa lang talaga, dahil because of the enhancement, nag-focus kasi sa pag-develop nito. Once we let this out, kasi ito pong curriculum na enhancement, palalabasin pa lang po ito. Hopefully this year, pati yung MEX bagong-bago. So sabay po yan ilalabas. Kasi ang in-implement pa rin po ngayon is the Revised Elementary Madras Education, which is the REMC. Magkaiba na po yan, kung alam niyo po yung Alive noon, yung parang dinidiscuss ka ni Sir Noor, may old curriculum sila, tapos may enhanced. May ganun din po. Hindi pa po na ilalabas ng enhanced, which I discussed with you. Pag nilabas po yan, we will monitor it, maganda po yung tanong, and we'll come up with a monitoring evaluation tool for that. Pati po sa MELFs, yon. So, we'll know kailangan lang mailabas to. Marami pang tanong yan, marami pang sigurong revision sa gagawin dyan. Pero for as long as mailabas na, para magamit na, at makita alin yung nag-work at hindi mag-work, mas mapapaganda pa natin ang ating curriculum po. But yes, we will do monitor it po. Do an M&E po for it. Thank you.
Salamat, Ma'am Fred. Ito po pang, actually itong pangatlo, hindi naman siya tanong, suggestion lang sa kanyang, napansin ni Sir, ni Dr. Lima na ganito ang iba niyang sinabi. In the vision statement slide in which it is thus stated, quote unquote, the learner emulates the character traits and virtues of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nationalistic, sabi niya, perhaps a more appropriate word to use is patriotic instead of nationalistic, because nationalistic has a particular political ideological underpinning which may run contrary to the universalistic horizon of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ano masasabi niyo dito, ma'am?
Sige, thank you for that suggestion, sir. We'll take note of your suggestion and we'll discuss it po amongst the mga curriculum specialists. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, ma'am. Ito yung huling question. Bago tayo pumunta ng kay Sir Noor, no? Tama, ito na palang huling question. Para kay Ma'am Noor. Baka later on, may habol din, no? Nahimutan natin ito. From Ma'am Amor Ramirez. Ma'am Amor Ramirez. Ang sabi niya rito, Assalamualaikum. Thank you for this very informative information about the Allied program of DepEd. I have two questions. One, there are Muslim children whose grasp of the Arabic language, reading, writing, and speaking, Islamic values is already deeply rooted. Malalim na raw. Is there an accreditation and equivalency examination for them to get accelerated? Parang some sort of program na exam sila tapos para mas mabilis yung kanilang pag-akyat sa ladder of education, Islamic education or Allied education. Is there an alternative learning system? May ALS din ba daw? That goes with the Allied program for Muslim out-of-school youth and homeschoolers. Ma'am?
Oo. Yes, maraming salamat po. Ang ano po, nag-iisip ako kung anong ibig sabihin ng marami po sa ating mga kabataan already have a grasp of the Arabic language. Kasi parang the common feedback that I'm getting from the old curriculum, which is the REMC, masyadong malalim yung curriculum po natin. Hindi po makasabay yung mga bata natin. That's why we need to do some revisions po talaga, major revisions po, mula kindergarten to grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3 bago sila mag-step into grammar ng grade 4. At medyo mas magiging mahirap po yung kanilang Arabic language. However, I wonder if the students that you're mentioning are also taking Islamic Studies in private schools kasi doon mas malalim yung turo po ng Arabic language nila kasi kaya mas bihasa po talaga sila Again, 40 minutes lang po kasi binibigay nating oras sa DepEd. So, but if the question is, if these learners are from DepEd and if there are yung mga acceleration na test, I don't think we have one right now, but we'll see kasi under din po ako ng Special Curricular Programs Division. Kasama po namin sa programa nito ay other programs like the gifted and talented students. At we also wanted to recognize students who have language skills and who are gifted with some na skills na hindi natin alam kung why not kung may ganon there's going to be another set of curriculum how we can also help the gifted and talented or probably just an assessment lang dun sa mga advanced learners natin. But this may come later on. This will be under the Bureau of Educational Assessment. Again, it's another bureau, not from our bureau, na para makita at magkaroon din ng mga assessment for this. May binanggit po ako kanina related to foreign languages. Ang kagandahan po meron po kasi kami special program in foreign language, which is offered in grade 7. However, wala pa po tayong Arabic language doon. We have French, Chinese, meron po ganon. Ang problema ng foreign language is that hindi siya problema. But yung difference lang niya, this can be offered to Muslim and non-Muslim na interested na mga teachers who wants to learn the foreign language. Okay din yan kasi mahahasa po yung mga teachers sa Arabic language. Tapos ang ibibigay po kasi ditong assessment, but this is not for the learners, for the teachers, yung standardized test ng proficiency of the language. Tapos pag naturuan po yung mga teachers natin dyan, in one of the way we can capacitate our teachers, pag nagturo sila sa mga estudyante, ganun din yung pamamaraan din ng pagturo nila kasi mas magiging bihasa sila sa Arabic. So tulong yon. Ang kagandahan lang ng ating ang difference lang ng curriculum natin na alive, mas advanced talaga yung mga bata natin na grade 3 pa lang, ang lalim na ng alam nila, matututunan nila sa Arabic language. Whereas pag foreign language, basic na basic pa lang po yung matututunan nila sa Arabic language. Pero pwedeng mag-complement ito. Kasi ang mag-o-offer nito are Arabic language speakers talaga. Usually, mga kasama namin dito, mga foreign-based, talaga ito mga French embassy. Ganun talaga yung mga kasama namin dito ng mga partners namin in the foreign languages. Sa Chinese, ganito, embassy, mga ganun po yung talaga. So, yun yung isa sa mga pwedeng maging direction po ng ating Arabic language in terms of yung mga other programs na makakatulong po para mas matulungan ng ating teachers and learners. Ang alternative learning system, susunod pa po yun pag na-develop namin yung senior high school program natin for the allied teachers. Kasi gusto ko pong sundutin yung sinasabi kanina ni Sir Noor na present niya regarding sa Islamic Studies. Nakita ko po yun kasi gumagawa ako ng polisiya na siguro lang, na gumagawa kami kasi ng polisiya kung saan, siguro if I just may share briefly lang if you can see this. Yan. Meron kaming, ito yung mga nakikita ko, mga trabaho na gusto namin sa kanila, mga certification, Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies, Bachelor of Arts in ASEAN Studies, yan. So, gusto ko muna ma-develop itong senior high school namin before I get into the alive or alternative learning system na alive, in alive. So, ang dami pa po namin pwedeng gawin. Ayan, mga middle skills namin, yung sinasabi na halal, trading, papasok siya sa entrepreneurship, papasok siya sa aming employment and work, as translator, as tourist guide, yan. So, sana connect itong aming senior high school na how we envision it dun sa sinasabi po ni Sir Noor. So, yun po. That's siguro the way I'm seeing it in terms of what are the things that we can still, ang dami pa po. Kaya talaga kailangan magpalakas tayo lahat para magampanan pa po natin yung mga trabaho natin. But thank you for all your questions and observations po para ma-improve yung aming programa. Naka-mute po kayo, sir.
May dalawang katanungan mula sa Q&A box na really para sa inyo po. Hindi muna natin tatanungin si Sir Noor. Kayo muna. Unahin natin ito. Ma'am Mildred, sabi dito, mula ito kay Sir Kulani, I noticed na sa listahan ng DepEd assisted madrasa, wala sa Sulu at Tawi-Tawi. Ano po ang nangyari? Ganun straightforward din tanong, sir. Ulitin ko, na napansin daw niyo sa DepEd lista na wala daw yung Sulu at Tawi-Tawi.
Well, kung under ba sila ng BARM, kasi with the transition that's happening po in BARM, talagang magkakaroon po sila ng separate na curriculum. What are we now? So if BARM is going to have a separate curriculum from DepEd, paano naman po ito titingnan? Nabanggit po ni Ma'am Nefertari kanina na we need to have a unified curriculum, and DepEd is really looking to that. Ang magiging role po ng DepEd doon, I've been attending also yung transition na authority ng Office of the President when they were discussing paano matutulungan din ang BARM when it comes to education. Yung curriculum na dapat ma-develop po natin sa DepEd, we can also share the same standards with BARM para unified po siya. Tapos if they want an additional, parang sabi nga po namin, minimum lang naman po yung hinihingi ng DepEd. If they want an additional na teachings on the Allied program, nasa sa kanila na po yun. Pero yung gano'n na nag-a-align yung standards sa DepEd at the same time ng BARM, yun po yung hinahanap natin for a unified curriculum po for our Muslim learners. So may ganun pong efforts. Huwag po kayong mag-alala kasi again, this is for peace advocacy kasi siya eh. Huwag natin kakalimutan what is this for. So tulungan po talaga. Ayaw natin ng magkaiba eh. Ayaw natin ng iba-iba. Isa lang naman yung tinuturo natin eh. It's just that mas marami lang po silang opportunity pag-aralan yung iba po mga lessons and subjects given that they have more time to study it po.
Salamat po, ma'am. Ito po yung isa pang tanong na sinasabi ko kanina. Hi, Ma'am Mildred. Is there an age limit to enroll for a light program? Would you recommend it for Balik Islam? Parang kasi, alam mo naman natin yung phenomenon ng Balik Islam, ma'am, ngayon ay dumadami. Nag-increase na yung mga Balik Islam. Karamihan sa kanila ay nasa advanced age din. So, gusto nilang matuto ng Islam. So, pwede bang makater yung na-alive program? Paano daw po yun?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Ano po ulit, sir? Is there?
Ano po, sa kaso po ngayon, marami na pong nag-convert into Islam. Tinatawag po natin yung Islam. At syempre, kailangan nila ng knowledge of Islam, lalo na yung Arabic language at Islamic values. So, they're saying na, they're asking like, mayroon bang program na ang alive na pwedeng i-cater sila somehow na hindi na sila mahirapan maghanap po ng mga madrasa na hindi naman nila kayang, wala silang qualification kasi nga, napaka-basic na ang gusto nilang malaman. Wala silang qualification like requirements na ibibigay hingin sa kanila. So meron daw po pang program. I think related to sa ALS. ALS, parang ganun.
Yeah. Okay. Naku, hindi ko masagot pero alam nyo, minsan like for example, tinatanong ko yung mga writers ko, may mga Muslim na hindi sila ganun kabihasa sa Arabic, pero ang lalim ng Islamic values and teachings nila. Alam mo, I get them. For the Islamic values. Yung sa akin, well, nasa sa teacher yung kung paano niya kung talagang gusto niya, di ba? Gagawin niya lahat para makapasok niya sa sarili niya, lalo na kung alam niya may magagawa siya for the society. But for DepEd, we still would want to tap other schools siguro na who can help us with that kasi baka kung sa aming manggagaling, mukhang wala pa talaga kami. But that's a good thing now. Sana we can also provide. Again, this is under the Bureau of Learning Delivery, not under curriculum. Para mas matulungan pa namin yung mga, na Balik Islam, ng mga teachers para makapacitate sila at makasama din po sila sa pagtuturo ng Alive. Well, sana hindi na sa DepEd. I also think, I also hope they can also find ways to be capacitated in other ways. Yon. Pero sa DepEd, baka kulangin lang po sila. Baka hindi pa po enough. Yun lang po. But hopefully in the future, matulungan din po namin sila.
I just want to share. I think mayroon yata ang program ang TESDA, ma'am. Baka pwedeng coordinate yung TESDA. Sa TESDA kasi meron silang program sa mga lesson. Yes, ma'am. Yung mga mag-abroad na tinuturuan ng Arabic language.
Wow.
So baka pwedeng i-tap yung TESDA.
Yes.
I think so.
Oo.
Yes,
maganda yan. Salamat sa pagsabi niyan. Kasi kami din ang pinupush namin ngayon kasi what we have is, again, as I mentioned, the special program in foreign language, SPFL. Teachers po ang talagang kinikater po ng programa na ito. Matagal na po nagra-run ito, pero wala tayo sa Arabic. But hopefully, pag naipasok natin yan lahat, kahit old teachers na gustong pumasok dyan, why not? Para makapacitate talaga sila. Napakaganda ng programa nito kasi talagang, yun nga matitest sila the competency ng language proficiency kasi standard examination po ang ginagamit dito. But thank you for letting me know about TESDA. Isa din pa yan na pwede namin.
Ayan, iwanan muna natin si Ma'am Mildred. Punta tayo kay Sir Noor. Sir Noor, are you there, Sir Noor? May mga katanungan po para sa inyo, Sir Noor. Thank you, sir.
Yes. and
Unang
we're-
question. Unang question. Parang nakaka-pressure, sir, no?
Nasa office ako. Ako lang kasi sa office.
Unang question from Mr. Aquino. No? Hindi to si Pinoy, Sir Aquino, sabi niya, Sir Noor, why BAIS, no, BAIS is not offered in UPOU? Siguro dapat ang magsagot dito si Ma'am Nel. Sige, depende, sir. Una ko muna, Sir Noor. Pwede mo rin
Ano
i-process
yun?
sa iba.
Ano ho ang
Why,
tanong?
bakit daw walang offer sa UPOU, UP Open University?
Ng ABIS program?
Yes, ng BAIS mo. Ng BAIS. Or,
Ng BAIS. BAIS or ABIS.
yes.
Oo. Oo nga, no? Hindi ko rin masagot kung bakit wala sa Open University. Pero for other higher education institution, noong pang 2008 na nai-release, meron na hong ABIS. Pero yun na nga, correct ka, para sa Open University, siguro, just to not to, baka si Ma'am Arsad pwedeng sumagot dyan for being also a member of the technical committee ng Islamic Studies. Nandyan si Ma'am Arsad. Ma'am, take it away.
Thank you, sir, for giving the floor. Ang UPOU kasi is actually offering one subject only, Islamic education, under its Faculty of Education. Actually, I'm the one teaching it too. But then before that, yung nabanggit mo, sir, no, you mentioned that the previous chairperson, Dr. Mashur bin Ghalib Jundam, when he was also dean of the institute, there were actually talks between him and UPOU on offering Islamic studies subjects at UPOU. However, I understand that these talks did not push through, so the transition of Islamic studies programs and the offering on an online platform did not come about. It was only late in after 2010 that the Islamic education program course package was formulated. Thank you.
Nakamute ka.
Yun yung sagot doon. Ngayon, another question for Sir Noor, Doc Noor. Actually, pwedeng sumagot both si Ma'am Mildred at saka si Doc Noor. No? Sabi rito, thank you for your presentations. I really enjoyed them and learned a lot from them. I see that many people are hard at work with the aim of developing a holistic curriculum for Muslim learners. May God bless you all. May I ask po, how do we make sure that what is taught in the classroom reflect the goals, visions, and missions of the curriculum? And yun ang unang tanong niya. Yun ang palang tanong niya. Thank you. Ulitin ko po, how do we make sure that what is taught in the classrooms reflect the goals, visions, and missions of the curriculum? Both po ito for Ma'am and for Sir Hussein. Sir Noor. Ito sa inyo dalawa maunang sumagot. Sino po pwedeng sumagot mauna?
Pwede si Ma'am Mildred muna doon sa DepEd
Sige
and then
po.
higher education institution for
Okay, ma'am.
CHED.
Actually, ayan, Sir Noor talaga. Sige po. Ano po, babawi ako mamaya, dapat siya mauna. Actually, sinasagot ko na, tapos nagulat ako na binabasa niyo na po. Sinulat ko dito, in the development of the alive curriculum, we made sure that what is in is reflected in the curriculum. Ayaw namin lumabas eh. Parang basta nandun lang kami sa basic education, ano yung developmentally appropriate, ano yung kakayanan, kapasidad, ano lang yung relevant even up to this time no, sa ating mga kabataan. So, paano namin ginagawa yun? Yun, we anchor it to our theories, we anchor it to our guiding principles. So, pag pinakita ko kasi yung kabuuan ng curriculum sa inyo, bago yung curriculum, meron po yan yung framework, tapos in-explain doon yung rationale, in-explain doon ano yung guiding principles kung saan namin inangkla yung ating curriculum, naka-explain dito yung et cetera, et cetera. Siguro sample lang kasi pinresent ko sa inyo. So yun po, we made sure na bago kami gumawa ng curriculum, nakaangkla dito sa kung ano lang po yung sakop ng DepEd na kaya niyang turuin po when it comes to Arabic language and Islamic values. And of course, monitoring and evaluation would come in also after the implementation of the curriculum. Yun lamang po.
Salamat.
Siguro, in addition
For-
to that, no? Sige po. Sige. Sir
Sige,
Noor,
sige
go
ma'am,
ahead.
go on. Sige ma'am.
I think ang gusto ko lang sabihin, wag po tayo mag-alala. We always review the curriculum. There's a revision of the curriculum every 3 years. May cycle po yon. So, tinitake in na. Pero kung may major revision siya agad, we look into that, draft it in a policy. Pero kung dapat kasi para makita mo kung paano talaga siya na-i-implement, we have this 3-year cycle para ma-revise ko yung curriculum. Yun lang po.
Okay. For the ABIS naman, no, I'm talking about 2008 curriculum pa kasi I cannot really discuss kasi hindi pa ito yung new curriculum. As I've said kanina, we're waiting for the approval from the Commission and Bank not to be implemented for the new curriculum. Yung old curriculum, isa ho sa mga that would ensure indeed na nare-realize yung mga what is reflected in the curriculum. Isa doon ang sa mga thesis nila. And then, pag nagsusulat sila ng thesis nila, or yung sa on-the-job training, no? Kung saan na-demonstrate yung skills and knowledge nila during the on-job training. And of course, just like what Ma'am Zamar had said a while ago, tinitingnan din dito ng TC yung curriculum na nire-review at ano na ba ho ang kahinatnan ng isang skills or competency kung ito ba ay nare-realize in what way. So, meron hong ang mga members ng TC nire-revise at nire-review. So, if you notice kung yun lang kasi mahaba talaga, yung mga transition ng mga courses sa bawat curriculum. Kasi tinitingnan din nila yung needs ng industry at saka paano nila ma-attune at ma-align doon. And then makikita, ma-demonstrate ng isang bata. So ngayon, yung outcome-based education, yun ay very apparent na ngayon na makikita mo kaagad-agad sa isang bata, hindi lang doon sa pagsusulat ng thesis or on the job training, doon pa lang sa simula pa, no, ng pagpasok nila or pag-enroll sa ABIS, pwede mo na kung makakitaan kung paano ang isang mastery, no, ng competency na makikita sa isang bata. So titingnan natin itong bagong curriculum, no, with the outcome-based, nakaangkla sa outcome-based education at saka yung Philippine Quality Framework, kung paano natin makikita, no, ang realization of the competencies or yung pag-realize, no, ng competency or mastery ng mga bawat competency nakapasok doon sa curriculum ng bagong ABIS, no. Pero yung 2008, that is how we look into that, no, based on the thesis being written by the learners or on the job training.
Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat sa inyong mga kasagutan. Ngayon tuloy-tuloy na ito hanggang sa pang-apat na tanong kay Sir Noor po lahat. Una, yung sa apat na huling katanungan para kay Sir Noor. Una, ang tanong dito, is there a halal studies or related subject being offered at Institute of Islamic Studies in UP? If there is, can a non-UP student go? I think para kay Ma'am Nerp ito. Kasi si Sir Noor hindi naman kasama sa IHS. Ma'am Nerp.
Pasensya po. I'm poaching on your time, sir. Pero ito yung tanong, as of the moment, no, we only have one course, Halal Lifestyles, that is being taught at the Institute. And this is going to be proposed as a major elective. Actually, this was newly formulated and is being offered as a special topics course. Wala pa po tayong halal program sa Institute of Islamic Studies. But then I'd like to assure you also that the faculty has been doing sessions on academic program improvement, and this is one of the things we also like to offer, an area of specialization in halal studies. Maraming salamat.
For the new curriculum, no, sa ABIS, that is one of the specialization, yung halal studies na yan. So very intensive din yung mga courses na papaloob doon sa halal studies na yun. Kaya hintayin natin itong magandang curriculum ng ABIS na to.
Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat. Ngayon, pangalawang tanong. Sir Noor, Assalamualaikum. Can a BA, Bachelor of Arts degree graduate, say for example, social science, enroll for BAIS or ABIS, but ABIS, will some of the units be credited to reduce the overall units required to complete the course? May ganun po ba tayong scheme? Sir?
Ano? Paano yun?
Halimbawa, graduate ka ng, galing ka ng social science, tapos gusto mo mag-shift ng Islamic Studies, pwede ba daw mag-credit yung mga units na kinuha mo doon sa social science?
Yes, oo. Especially yung mga general courses or sa general education courses, no? Itong mga general education courses, usually across curriculum yan, no? Dumidepende na lang doon sa specialization or yung tinatawag natin major nila. Pero pagdating sa mga general education courses, no, walang problema, accredited yung lahat. So most likely pag magpapa-evaluate ka, no, from social science to ABIS, so tinitingnan na lang yung mga ano ba yung mga subjects na accredited na doon. So ako, I'm pretty sure the general education subjects, which is across curriculum, i-credit yung dire-diretso. So kukonti na lang ang makukuhang unit, especially siguro doon na lang sa specialization for ABIS, no? Ang so hoping na itong bagong curriculum natin, no, ma-implement na natin by next school year. Kaya ngayon we are really moving heaven and earth, no, with Ma'am Arsad and the rest of the members of the technical committee like Professor Dagit and Dr. Kayamuddin, that we can finish, no, and we can finalize, no, for this ABIS program, and finally an approval from the Commission and Bank, and then public hearing and implementation of this ABIS.
I have a question po. Ito mula sa isang anonymous pa rin. Sana pakilala siya kasi medyo critical itong question niya. I mean, napaka-personal. In 2019, when I graduated from the foreign university as bachelor's degree in Sharia, major in Islamic Studies, I requested to check our Region 9 for equivalency, but until now there is no result. Kindly, if you have any idea, answer my question. Okay, sir?
Ano yun daw? Wala pang result ng assessment?
Yes, wala pa raw po yung equivalency.
Hindi pa siya
yes po,
wala. Kasi usually, kami sa TC ng Islamic Studies, once endorsed na sa amin ng central office, kasama na yung attachment lahat, immediately we look into those attachment and we started having this assessment. And then after makompleto namin apat, maka-affix na kami ng signature namin. Ngayon nga electronic signature na lang kasi virtually yung namin, yung discussion namin pagdating dito sa evaluation ng for issuance of the certificate of equivalency. Then after that, babalik doon sa central office, then central office i-communicate niya na doon sa regional office kung saan nag-apply yung applicant. So I think I cannot really answer kung saan na ba yung paper na yon, basta on our part as a TC, no, members of the TC, we immediately acted on pagdating sa mga endorsement ng Commission on Higher Education Central Office o PDS. Siguro i-follow up na lang niya, hingi talaga siya ng detail doon sa regional office ng Commission on Higher Education, yung detail ng kanyang saan na ba, umabot na ba ng central office, na endorse na ng regional office doon sa central office, or saan na, ano na ba yung status na yon, no? Para at least naman on the part of the sa central office, kung na-communicate na yon, perhaps kami rin ni na Ma'am Arsad, we can also verify sa central office yung paper na yon, kung nasaan na ba yon. Sino ho sila? Ano hong name niya?
Wala po nakalagay na name, sir. Yung anonymous na nakalagay.
Ganun ba? Okay, sige,
Hindi niya
sige.
nilagay.
Pwede naman siguro i-chat niya sa iyo yung name niya.
Sana. Sir, kung
oo.
nakikinig kayo, pakichat na lang po ng pangalan niyo sa akin. Tapos i-send na kayo sa organizer para mabigyan ng pansin ng inyong problema, sir. At saka ito ba yung regional sa may Zamboanga to, sir, di ba?
Yes. Sa Region 9, yung CHED Region 9.
Sa tabi ng Baliwasan Central School?
Yes, yun.
Nakasambagan din po ako, sir.
Okay.
Okay, ang pangalawang tanong, ito, yung last or third, ito. Ang huling tanong actually, wala pa akong napapansin na sumusunod na mga katanungan. Ito na yung huling tanong natin so far. Kung meron man akong hindi napansin, please paki-check na lang po. Tulungan niyo na lang po ako, mga tropa. Ito, ang tanong, Sir Noor or Doc Noor, in the Islamic economics specialization, does Islamic finance and banking integrated? Yan po yung tanong.
Yes, oo. Nabasa ko rin yung niya sa chat box. Kasama yung Islamic finance and banking as one of the courses doon sa Islamic economics specialization of ABIS.
Nice.
Mayroon pang tanong dito, Doc Noor, do you think this new curriculum could be implemented by next school year? Yun na nga sabi ko kanina, we move heaven and earth, no, Ma'am Arsad, hoping that we can finish everything, we can finalize. And then maaprubahan na ng commission and bago makapublic hearing. So ma-target na namin by next school year, no? Before opening ng next school year sa higher education institution, makahabol kami ng public hearing and then this will be released through Commission on Higher Education Memorandum.
Sandali, parang may mga tanong pa rito. Check ko lang, sir, sandali. Medyo, Assalamualaikum. I'm a BSN RN po. For instance po, nag-take po ako ng SBE, pero hindi po ako graduate ng ABIS. Am I allowed to take the SBE po? If not, what are the requirements po in order po to take the said SBE? Shukran. Ano pong take natin dito, sir?
Ano ho yung
nasa Q&A question box ito. Ulitin ko, isa daw siyang RN, registered nurse. Gusto niya atang mag-take ng SBE, ng SBE to, sir. Kasi hindi po siya graduate ng ABIS. Pero hindi po siya graduate ng ABIS. Gusto niya mag-take ng SBE, pero hindi siya graduate ng ABIS. Allowed po ba? Ano kaya itong ABIS?
Ano po yung SBE?
Kaya nga, ano po yung SBE dito? Please pakilinaw po. Pakichat na lang po dito sa may chat box. Balikan po natin yung tanong niyo, ma'am. Unahin muna natin itong iba pang tanong dito. May humabol. Sir Pazri Muharrani, the one who asked certificate of equivalency po. Yun. Si ano daw po yung pangalan? Si Al-Fazri Muharrani. Yung nagtanong po ng certificate of equivalency.
Sino yon? Si?
Al-Fazri Muharrani.
Sulat na lang sa chat box,
yes,
sir.
Yes po, sulat ko po ngayon. Ay, copy-paste lang natin. Yan po yung pangalan niya. Okay. Balikan natin yung kanina SBA. SBE pala. Sorry. SBE pala yung ibig sabihin na Sharia by exam. Sharia bar exam. Sino pwedeng sumagot dito? Question kasi niya, RN siya, pero gusto niya mag-Sharia bar exam. Hindi po siya ABIS. Pwede po ba daw siya mag-Sharia bar exam? Sino po pwedeng sumagot?
Ma'am Arsad, do you have any knowledge, no, kung pwede ba siya mag-take doon ng Sharia bar exam o kailangan niya talaga doon sa ano bang mga requirements? I think si Dr. Kayamud din ito, expertise niya, isang member ng technical committee. Baka si Ma'am Arsad meron
Oo.
ding knowledge.
Okay. Actually, we had somebody from NCMF speak in my class 2 weeks before. They're the ones handling the Sharia bar training. Ang requirements kasi actually is if you are graduate of a 4-year course, but you're not in Islamic Studies, you need to undergo a Sharia bar training, the 45-day Sharia bar training. And if you have completed it satisfactorily, then you may take the Sharia bar exams. I don't know though if this has been, there have been modifications on this, but as far as I know, this is the requirement. Pero the best people to answer that, ma'am, is the NCMF. You should inquire with the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos because they are the ones handling the Sharia bar. Thank you.
Ma'am Arsad,
Yes, sir.
let me acknowledge the presence of our chairperson, Abdul Hadi Dagit. Nandyan siya.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum. He replied to the query kanina in relation to the bar no sa Sharia.
Yes, and I read, pwede ang non-Islamic Studies graduate as long as he or she attended the Sharia training. Yes.
So pwede, no? As long as you will attend the Sharia training, yung 48 hours ba yun, Ma'am Arsad?
45 days po.
45 days. 45 days, sorry.
Yun po yung kasagutan sa mga tanong kanina. Ngayon, na-proceed po tayo. May mga katanungan pa po dito humabol sa may chat Q&A box. Si Dr. Michael Mastura, Doc, assalamualaikum. Ito pang tanong ni Doc Michael Mastura. Good afternoon, Ma'am Zamar. Para kay Ma'am po, Ma'am Mildred po ito. DepEd graphic organizers, rubrics or curriculum guides are lengthy and hard to read for non-Tagalog speakers. Is there a way to simplify it for teaching Arabic as a second language and for specific purposes? Yun yung tanong. Ma'am Mildred, are you there po?
Yes. I think if this is a general if this is the rubrics or curriculum guide na sinasabi not only that caters to the Allied program pero yung kabuuan, I think this is under the Bureau of Learning Delivery ulit kasi they're the ones who's doing the rubrics. Pero sabi curriculum guide, so amin ito. Okay, so it's written in Filipino. Okay, yun ang nasabi. Okay, may ilan po kasing mga subjects na pag Filipino din yung kanilang rubrics pero pag English naman, it's actually written in English. Medyo hindi ko po nakuha itong question na to. What is siguro specifically referring to what subject? If it's the Arabic language, again, magkakaroon ng panibagong rubrics para dun sa enhanced na curriculum guides natin for the Allied curriculum. So if that is your concern. But in relation dun sa Filipino, yes, kasi ang Islamic values education was aligned to the edukasyon sa pagpapakatao. And edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, ESP, is in Filipino. Kaya parang napansin namin, when we crafted the Islamic values education, it's in Filipino, even the curriculum guide. So, tama ka doon, nahirapan po yung mga Arabic language writers ko sa pagsulat na. Kasi hindi rin nga din yun ang kanilang talagang native F1 language nila. So, L1 language nila. So kung makakaroon kami ng translation ng English to that, baka medyo matagalan lang po. Pero ang tinatry naming habulin, dun sa mismo curriculum namin, write up, hindi sa mismo curriculum guides, but the curriculum framework write-up ng aming Islamic values na mahabol namin yung English translation because it's currently in a Filipino, we use the Filipino language for that. Yes, sana nga, naisip nga namin na baka nga mukhang mahihirapan po yung ilan, from Visayas, Mindanao. I think nakuha ko yung concern na noon before. Pero salamat po for pointing that out. Yes. We can discuss that po sa DepEd.
We only have 40 minutes to go. Meron pa tayong 5 tanong dito. Bilisan na lang natin yung siguro yung ibigay ng kasagutan. Una, kay Sir Noor, bakit wala pong Islamic education sa bagong curriculum na sinabit daw sa GEN? Wala ang Islamic education. Wala raw pong Islamic education.
Walang
Islamic education.
Education?
Yeah. Islamic education.
Referring to teachers education program.
Wala siyang sinabi, sabi lang niya bakit hindi kasama yung Islamic education.
Honestly, when we crafted the new curriculum, of course we harmonized with the old curriculum. Isa rin yung tinitingnan namin yung kung pwede ang isang specialization ng maisama doon para bang that would yun lang ang take ko doon sa tanong na yun baka teachers education yun. Para yung certificate sa teachers education program na sa ABIS na after that they can have this 24 units ba sa teachers education program and then finally they can take the PRC, licensure examination for teacher. Nung una naming inupuan itong curriculum, we looking into the previous curriculum, isa yun ang pag-usapan namin kung pwede ang specialization. Pero magkakaroon ng problema because there is a separate PSG for the teachers education program. So hindi hindi siya na para bang ang isang programa na isisingit mong like yung teachers education program and then mayroong separate na PSG to look into that. So we decided na wag na natin isasama ito anyway. After completing the ABIS, they can still take units in education, but they have to finish muna the ABIS program. So kasi dati yon, isa yun sana sa specialization. Once they are done with ABIS, they can immediately take the licensure examination for teacher. Pero we encounter a problem because there is a separate PSG for a teacher's education program. So wala na inalis na namin. I hope yun ang take ko sa tanong na yun na about education. Kung bang after completing the ABIS program, pwede na ba sila education ba? Ano ba yung magkukuha ng board exam sa teacher? So after sa ABIS program, so kukuha na lang sila ng units for a teacher's education program na certificate kasi ang kailangan ng sa PRC 18 units lang. And then they can take the yung licensure examination for teachers. So it's up for the PRC kung saan sila ika-classify, whether sa social science ba or ano bang specialization yon for the ABIS program. So yun ang take ko doon sa tanong na yun.
Salamat, sir. Ito, another question. For both speaker na ito, both speaker, ano raw po yung ginagawa ng bawat programa? Halimbawa, pag nagkakaroon tayo ng kakulangan ng mga teacher na qualify magturo, ano daw po yung ginagawa nating solusyon? Either sa inyo dalawa ang kayo sa
on the part of the Commission on Higher Education, yung higher education institution na lang yung mag-i-implement ng program, like ng ABIS. So kasama rin doon sa PSG yung qualification. So what are the qualification na needed for a certain teacher to teach in the ABIS program? So nasa institution na yon, nasa higher education institution. So dito sa Commission on Higher Education, we just set minimum standard, So it's up for the higher education institution kung ano pa ang kailangan niyang idagdag doon. But if the minimum standard set forth in the PSG of a certain program like the ABIS, so it's up for the higher education institution to add. If the higher education decided that that is enough, then yun na yun. No? So kasama na din ho sa PSG ano pong mga qualification sa mga teacher na pwedeng magturo doon sa ABIS program. Anyway, sa public hearing, talagang lahat ng detail ng policies, standards, and guidelines of the ABIS will be discussed during the public hearing after the approval from the Commission and Bank.
Thank you po, sir. Si Ma'am Mildred po. May dagdag po kayo.
Oo, nako, alam niyo po, after etong dumating na pandemic, sa totoo na, mas dumami po talaga yung mga estudyante na pumasok sa public school because many of the private schools also closed. And we also wanted to look into the need of hiring teachers. Problema nga na siya before the pandemic. Tapos syempre, but it's a good problem. Ibig sabihin, may mga bukas na trabaho po para sa DepEd for allied teachers. Kaso nga, again, marami sa mga allied teachers natin are not left passers and therefore affecting din yung salary grade din nila na pwede nilang makuha. Yeah, we are in need of teachers kasi syempre yung mga left passers natin ng mga teachers, many of them are non-Muslim. Kukunti lang talaga yung Muslim. Kaya nga meron kaming contract of service. Yeah, if you know somebody, if they want to apply in DepEd, we're very open to receive you. Yun nga lang sana din talaga. Mas ini-encourage namin na talaga maging left passer sila. So, ang problema naman, okay, ito naman, ang karaniwang nangyayari sa akin mga left passers, sa totoo lang, I'm also getting teachers who yung talagang magagaling ng mga Muslim teachers ko are master teachers. Kaso, pag master teacher sila, hindi lang sila sa Arabic language at sa Islamic values kinukuha din sila sa ibang subjects. Kasi ang gagaling nila. So parang, hindi pwede yun. I want to secure them. Kasi dapat focus lang din sila sa alive para hindi naman din mag-suffer yung quality ng alive classes namin. So, ganun pag magaling ka, tutulong ka rin sa ibang subjects. Pero gano'n naman yung tulungan lang din talaga. Pero pwedeng ko yun saluhin sa polisiya na diinan ko, bigyan ko ng ngipin sa polisiya that their focus should only be the alive classes para matutukan ko yung ating estudyante doon. Yes, we are in need of teachers, but also teachers na talagang sana let passers. Yun po.
Thank you po. Ito po another question dito. Medyo ilang minuto na lang ba tayo? Meron pa tayong more than 30 minutes. Good afternoon, Sir Noor. Ito yung tanong sir. Sa taas pala, ito muna. Kaya anonymous muna tayo. Kay Ma'am Mildred pa rin. Are there instructional materials for the alive who are involved in the preparation of such material? Meron daw po ba tayo instructional material or sino po yung involved sa paggawa?
Okay. So, meron tayong before dun sa ating old curriculum. So, merong ginawang mga instructional materials. However, dito sa enhanced curriculum, gagawan pa lang po ito ng instructional materials. I'm encouraging my writers, those who develop the curriculum, to also be part din ng team of writers na gagawa ng ating mga learning materials for our learners. Kasi sila, ang hirap po kasi na mag-develop ka ng material kung hindi mo talaga naintindihan ano yung curriculum at ano yung tinatry niyang i-hit, dapat talagang merong close working relationship talaga ang curriculum at saka ang learning resources at ang learning delivery para maayos yung implementation at pag-assess at paggawa po ng materials nito. So, I'm asking my writers na if in case the Bureau of Learning Resources would come up with a team then of writers na gagawa po ng instructional material, sila yung i-refer ko. Pero kung ang tanong doon, anong magiging role ko, usually they invite naman people from the Bureau of Curriculum Development to make sure na tama yung content dun sa paglatag nila ng mga learning resources. Kasi gano'n naman po dapat. Yun nga lang, pag hindi ako ma-invite, magkakaroon tayo ng problema doon. Baka kasi mawala yung alignment. So, yun po.
Maraming salamat, ma'am. Ito po ay galing po kay Doc Mastura, para kay Sir Noor po ito. Pag-assign ko na lang po yung tanong dito para mas mabilis. Sabi ni Sir Noor sa unang tanong, parang suggestion ito in some way. We suggest to include in the halal studies to read Islamic commercial transactions in halal studies. Dagdagan daw po yung word na halal studies ng Islamic commercial transactions. Islamic commercial transactions and halal studies. You know. In this context, the course will be properly guided by Islamic jurisprudence. Ang pangalawa ng question, yun din, we also suggest na yung sa political economy daw ay dagdagan din. Sabihin na, although wala na to, di ba, alisin na to, sir, no? Pero sabihin pa rin natin dito, political economy instead na political economy lang, sabihin na political economy and diplomacy studies. And also Islamic law and jurisprudence, although nabanggit na ito na meron siya, no? But it can form both as a foundational course for the pre-law, no? And for the degree holder to qualify for special Sharia bar examination. For political economy and diplomacy, the purpose is for employability and for acquiring professional license status under the foreign service examination. Yan lang na po. Suggestion lang naman na po yan.
Okay, noted yung mga suggestion na yan. Correct ka, Mr. Kamarudin, yung political economy. So, mapipace out na yun pag ma-implement na yung bagong ABIS natin. Kasi yun na ang magiging specialization noon is Islamic economics, which include also yung mga tanong din kanina kung kasama ba yung Islamic finance and banking.
Yes. Thank you po, sir. Ito na yata yung huli. Hindi, dalawa pa. Ito ang isang tanong dito. Yung ito actually, nakaka-relate kami rito sa Islamic Studies. Ang tanong dito, sir, is there a course anywhere in the Philippines na educator daw po ng interreligious dialogue? Interreligious dialogue po, sir. Sir Noor.
Interreligious dialogue. Most likely, itong curriculum, kaya nga, I do not want also to preempt, to discuss in detail. Isa yun sa mga approach din sa ABIS curriculum, yung interreligious dialogue na yan. Makakasama din dito as one of the approaches. Perhaps ito na yung sa mga nila kung ma-implement na yung curriculum sa higher education institution na pwedeng gamitin ng isang higher education institution as an approach in the implementation of the courses embedded in the curriculum of ABIS.
Thank you, sir. That's clear now. At ito panghuli, for ma'am, para kay Ma'am Mildred po ito. I am an online Quran tutor in which we teach basics Arabic or Quran and Arabic or Quran reading. We teach basic Arabic, Quran reading and writing, and most of the parents request Islamic values. I found the curriculum very comprehensive for my students. Is it okay if we follow the DepEd Alive curriculum, or is it not allowed?
Wow. Of course, alam niyo po, inaantay ko lang ma-upload dito. For approval, pareho kami ni Sir Noor ng problema eh. Ako rin I'm trying to move heaven and earth na rin talaga para talagang ma-implement na ito. So parang hindi ko nga din po, alam niyo, pagpasensya niyo na po, hindi ko nga po ma-share pa yung slides because everything is still for approval. So huwag po kayo mag-alala kasi parang I'm already on the last phase. Talagang kating na ako talagang i-share to because alam niyo po, give me 12 years. Give me 12 years and we'll make a difference. Ang gusto ko pong, kasi, patapos naman na tayo, I wanna give a hopeful message, Bakit give me 12 years? Kasi 12 years, para ma-implement natin yung curriculum, makita natin paano mag-change yung mga bata, paano natin ma-advocate ito sa Islam. to be able for us to produce teachers that we lack now, they're gonna start young. Ito na sila. Ito yung mga bata na to na mag-benefit from the curriculum and hopefully they will become the teachers that we want for our alive classes kasi yun ang kulang tayo eh. So I want to see these children graduate from the alive program, graduate from UP, di ba? That's kasi I like that alignment, sana nga they can also take those courses in UP. And hopefully sila yung magbabago talaga ng ninanais natin na makita for our Muslim community. So ang sa akin, why not? Pwede nilang gamitin. Ito lang, baka lang hindi kayo ma-recognize kasi tutor lang naman yun, so wala tayong problema doon. You can always use different learning resources, different learning materials. Meron po ang DepEd na learning resources na portal na lahat po ng mga teachers namin ngayon because of the online na pandemic, they can get access to that. Even non-DepEd parents, users can access to that. Nandun lahat. Pati yung curriculum na ma-upload po natin, you can also access to that. Except kung nag-run ka ng school and you want to be DepEd recognized, hindi ka DepEd recognized, pero ginagamit mo tong curriculum na to ng DepEd, hindi ka lang ma-recognize because you're not a DepEd recognized school. But if you just want to use it as a guide, sa pag-tutor, why not? You can always use any of our curriculum, math, science, alive program. For as long as ma-upload na po namin ito sa aming portal and ma-approve na po ito ng DepEd. So, pasensya na po for those who are asking a copy of this. I cannot give it yet because it's still for approval, but hopefully next year maibigay at maipalabas na po namin ito. Ang inaayos lang po namin dito kasi currently I had a workshop on the transliteration of Arabic words in the alive curriculum kasi parang nagkakagulo pa doon sa transliteration eh. So at least nagkaroon lang kami ng glossary for that para lang unified yung aming understanding ng mga Arabic words doon. So nandun na kami sa polishing ng maging maayos lang yung pag-format ng aming curriculum and then we will already release it once it's ready. So yun po, maraming salamat. Naway maging makapag-antay po kayo para doon.
Mukhang may humabol na isang tanong dito si Sir Fads Muharrani, Ang tanong niya, yung pinalaman dito sa concept or sa konsepto ng tawhid, Kung sana may turo daw ito sa bagong curriculum kasi para sa tingin niya daw, sa old curriculum wala daw nag-mention about tawhid. Gusto sana daw niya magturo ito kasi napakahalaga rin ito. Maraming salamat. Sir Noor.
Noted. Kaya nga, ang daming katanungan kasi hindi ko ini-present sa inyo yung detail ng curriculum, Rest assured yung mga suggestion natin kasi we are still on the process of finalizing everything and then sa-submit sa commission and MANG. So hanggang doon lang ang maibigay ko sa inyo yung overview lang ng bagong curriculum natin. And another thing, may mga tanong din dito na mabigyan daw sila ng invitation for the public hearing. Yes, lahat ng mga higher education institution, I would like to inform the representative of higher education institution na nasa platform ngayon, don't worry, you will be given an invitation pag magpa-public hearing na tayo for the new curriculum ng ABIS or ng BAES.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Noor, si Ma'am Mildred, sa inyong oras at sa napakalinaw at napakagaling na pagsasagot sa mga katanungan natin. Balik po sa inyo, Ma'am Nep, and the rest of the gang. So po, maraming salamat mga katropa.
Okay, again, I'd like to thank our speakers for this afternoon, Ma'am Mildred from the DepEd Bureau of Curriculum Development, and Dr. Noor also from DepEd, but certainly a longtime member of the Technical Committee on Islamic Studies. I'd also like to thank the participants for actively fielding questions. Certainly, these are two very big topics, and as you will see that from both our speakers spoke about the respective programs in basic education and in higher education since their inceptions and how they evolve today. Makikita natin na marami pong trabaho na ginagawa at patuloy na ginagawa para i-develop ang mga programs ng government. patungkol sa Muslim education. We also saw that both the DepEd and CHED conducted a streamlining of the curriculum. The CHED much earlier because of the K to 12 and therefore the interdisciplinary nature that was mandated for the Philippine GE framework, the quality framework, and because of the pandemic, the DepEd for streamlining into the milks. I think Ma'am Mildred also mentioned that this was also serendipitous because DepEd has always been sometimes criticized for having such an overcrowded curriculum. So this initiative into looking for the most essential learning competencies in the Alive program has definitely its benefits and has inadvertently answered that the question on overcrowding of curriculum. But both are also careful to say that all of these developments cannot be officially transmitted to the public pending certain protocols. Ma'am Mildred also approval from DepEd and Dr. Noor approval from the CHED Committee and Bank. Please bear with us for hiding or leaving out the details on this because of course these are protocols we have to respect. Actually, Dr. Noor's presentation had to have clearance from CHED OPSD before we could move on to present them, and we were also cautioned to only give the barest detail or the overview of this. But then it was also important because since this is a public document, we'd also like to share with you, especially HEIs with Islamic Studies programs who are confused or who are still patterning their programs after the political economy and multimedia technology strand. So it has been a dilemma for many. So we also hope that these PSGs will be finally approved or be finally presented to the public and approved, and so that we can publish them also. Some of the questions were related to delivery, especially with the Alive program, curriculum delivery, and Ma'am Mildred has also emphasized that this is within the purview of the Learning Delivery Division, of course, how does the curriculum translate to the ground? There are many aspects or there are many factors that affect curriculum implementation in the ground. But of course, these are things that Ma'am Mildred will be able to pass on to her colleagues at the Learning Delivery Division. These are certainly good inputs. We are happy to find these concerns because it's the only way we could address them if you have fielded them to us or surfaced your concerns or questions. And finally, I think that is all. There was also a question on equivalency. There are several questions on equivalency. From our experience with Dr. Noor, the CHED has been responsive about equivalencies in as much as they could facilitate these. They have been prompt about forwarding to us applications for equivalency and eligibility. However, if you have had problems, kindly follow up on or perhaps resubmit because this has very good implications or very good outcomes for you if you are accredited, if your degree abroad is accredited, and then you are able to pursue further studies here in the Philippines, or you may use this for employment. Okay, so I thank you all for your participation today. I'd also like to thank for both webinars the staff of the SIDS and the SIDS ISP for this very great teamwork. Thank you to the speakers. I certainly learned a lot from you, from this morning's speakers and from this afternoon's, Ma'am Mildred and Dr. Noor. It's always good to learn something new every day. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I think we will be having a photo session.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So I pass it on to you, Cams and Clara. Thank you.
Okay po, magandang hapon, paggabi na pala. Okay po, 1, 2, 3. First page po tayo, smile. Okay, wait lang po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, okay na po, ma'am.
Salamat po sa inyong lahat. Jazakallahu khair. Shukran. Thank you very much.